praise all of your presence in this seminar, Chefs Manifesto India Gathering, January 2021. It is a glorious moment for the food community. It gives me tremendous contentment to be presenting the welcome speech amongst the most esteemed personalities who have won accolades in their respective fields, that is food and wellness. Before we begin this seminar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who are sincerely committed to this event to make it a success. Brought together some of the freshest thinkers to discuss how we reach our global goal to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, as well as promoting sustainable agriculture. At the same time, advances across the 2030 agenda will be a zero hunger world. Towards the UN global goals is more important. This cannot be achieved without shifting our food systems onto a sustainable path. The farm to fork strategy will reduce the environmental and climate footprint. As said before, 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals will not be achieved without ending hunger and malnutrition. Or, in the absence of sustainable, inclusive, and resilient climate, compatible agriculture and food systems. The human body is a product of food, ahar, and it is considered the sustainer of life. The Ayurveda approach to food with intelligence and self-control consume conductive food right quantity at right time is considered the best sustainer of life, showing the importance of food and food sustain the life of all living beings and complexion, clarity, good voice, longevity, genius, happiness, satisfaction, nourishment, strength, and intellect were all conditioned by food. With this importance of food, it is our responsibility to provide food for all. We chefs believe in nutritional food for all to remove hunger. The concept of dining that combines whole food that are locally grown, dishes prepared with taste, wellness, and soul in mind, and meals that are appreciated when eaten. Chefs must build relationship with local farmers, campaign to protect traditional foods, organize tastings, seminars, encourage chefs and enthusiast cooks to choose locally, motivate farmers to participate in food events, defense of biodiversity, and work to bring taste education into schools. The document drafted and finalized in brainstorming workshops in London, New York, Milan, and written by chefs. These works created Chefs Manifesto for the chefs to accelerate the objective of SDG 2, which is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDG United Nations. These are simple and easy to achieve, can be followed best practices in everyday operation in our own kitchens. It's only possible if you believe that it is chef's responsibility as part of the profession. This will help you in your chef's career. Top food systems forums of the world made the comment that the chefs can be powerful advancement for a better future, inspiring people to make changes in their kitchens and communities and empowering them to call on governments and companies to also play their part. Outcome of Chefs Manifesto are the 8 themes which will be covered in detail by Paul Area SDG2 Advocacy Hub. That is the ingredients grown with respect for earth and its oceans, protection of biodiversity and improved animal welfare, investment in livelihood, value natural resources and reduce waste, celebration of local and seasonal food, plant-based ingredients, education on food safety and diet and the healthy diet, aid nutrition that, that is possible and affordable for all. It is essential we work together on this. We cannot do this alone. We will all suffer the consequences if the of the destruction of our planet. To ensure that these 8 themes, SDG2, are met through our hard work, perseverance, and fun. Enjoy cooking. Once again, thanks to all for attending this seminar. Now, over to Chef Anahita. She is committed to SDG2 objectives and contributed a lot in Chef's Manifesto to spread. Chef Anahita.
Chef Gill, I see Chef Anahita is still just joining. So she's going to be with us in just 1 minute, I think. So I want to, we'll just see if we can bring her in. But thank you for your generous words. It's great to, let me just see. She says she is joined. Okay. Just 1 second. We'll just wait 1 second. Okay. Okay, Chef Anahita is just joining. She came in on the wrong link, so I've just made her a panelist, so she's able to now speak. Chef Anahita, are you there?
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. Over to you.
Hi. I'm so sorry I couldn't access my camera, so you weren't able to see me, but I could hear everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chef Manjit, for giving such a lovely introduction about what we are going to be discussing for the next few days. So I just want to start by saying good afternoon, esteemed speakers and panelists, chefs, advocates, farmers, students, everyone who's gathered here today for our virtual Chefs Manifesto India Gathering. A very warm welcome to our international guests, Chef Mokgadi, Chef Arthur, and Chef Deepanker Khosla. With the entire team of the Chefs Manifesto, which is Paul Newnham and his team, IFCA, Chef Manjit, Gill, Chef Soundararajan, Pavitra, and the entire team who's worked endlessly this entire week to make this event possible. So a big thank you to them. The next 2 days, these 2 days are actually for everyone in the industry. That's not only for chefs, it's not only for farmers, but advocates, people who are interested in food. You can be anyone in the F&B industry, or you could also just be a big advocate of climate change, and you want to see that happening through your food. This is going to be an exciting 2 days where you're going to get information and insights on food, food loss, farmers, their journeys, food waste, and all the Chefs Manifesto thematic areas. We have with us Paul Newnham. He's the director of the SDG2 Advocacy Hub, and he'll be giving us a deep insight into it. We've got many senior chefs from the industry, from the Indian F&B industry, and it'll be very good for you to give it a good hear and absorb as much as you can in these 2 days. We've also got chef demonstrations by Chef Gayatri and Chef Megha Kohli, and it'll be a great opportunity for you to understand some new ingredients on biodiversity and Indian cuisine. I just want to say that we've got so much in this country, from north, south, east, west, everywhere. We've got so many ingredients, so many delicious regional cuisines. And as chefs, we have to be passionate about promoting our own culture, and we have to be very, very proud about what we do. So I hope you, take all that information, absorb all that information, and use it in the future. I hope you have a fun, packed learning experience today and tomorrow because it's for 2 days. And if you have any questions, then you can leave it in the chat section. Don't interrupt any speakers when they are, giving their panel discussions or demonstrations. You can just put them down in the chat box. And we can get back to you depending on who the question is for. We can get back to you as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I will be seeing you all tomorrow as there has been a bereavement in my family. Someone has passed away, so I need to leave, but I will be there with you tomorrow. And I'm handing over to Chef Soundararajan from the IFCA team, and he will be, taking you through all the events for today, and I will be back tomorrow to take you through the events of tomorrow. So I'm really sorry I'm not with you. So please get ready and buckle up with the director and the mega mind behind the Chefs Manifesto, Paul Newnham, who's going to take you through the Chefs Manifesto. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chef Anahita, and we thank you for making time to join us during this challenging time. And it's great to have started today with the legend Chef Manjit Gill, such an amazing wealth of knowledge and experience, and being involved in this Chefs Manifesto network right from the very beginning. So Chef Gill, I recall when we started looking at this project around the Chefs Manifesto, I was put in touch with Chef Gill, and he said, look, I would love to be involved. And I said, well, we're having our next meeting in New York. And he said, I'll be there. And he arrived in New York and came and shared, and we've started a long friendship since then. And he's brought many chefs into this conversation, into this story. And Chef Anahita has joined very early on, has been involved in this, and there's many other chefs that are going to be involved over the course of this. And so it's great. This is a group which is not about any one individual, it's about a community, a network, and it's designed by chefs for chefs. And what we're really about is about encouraging, inspiring action. We want to see change, we want to see progress. And so that's what we're going to talk a lot about. In the webinar chat, there's the opportunity for you to put questions into the chat, to also to put the Q&A section where you can add comments. You can ask questions for people. And I see there's a question for Chef Anahita there already from an anonymous attendee who Chef Anahita can go in and write a response. But please ask others for other speakers. We have very esteemed speakers and they're giving up their time and they're going to be here. And so that's it's going to be really good. I want to reiterate my thanks also to the IFCC and to particularly Chef Soundararajan, who has helped with his team really lead the really some of the coordination of gathering speakers and doing all of this. And this has not been a small job, it's been quite a large job, and it's really important for us to have partners like the Federation, and so and all of its members. And so it's really great to be working with you today. So I'm going to share some slides. I'm going to take you through a little bit of a snapshot of what the Chefs Manifesto is. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some opportunities for advocacy. And advocacy means simply speaking out on behalf of others or on behalf of an issue, but some advocacy opportunities that are happening this year And I'm actually going to have a guest join me who is not on the program, but is a great guest from, and I'll introduce them as they come on, but from the United Nations Food Systems Summit, which is a key event that's happening later in 2021, but has started now. But let's start with just taking you through the foundations of the Chefs Manifesto. And so in front of you on the screen, you'll see that there is the SDGs. These are called the Sustainable Development Goals, or the Global Goals. And these goals were created in 2015 at the United Nations, where every single country in the world signed on to these 17 goals. And these 17 goals cover the key areas that the world and the world leaders agreed on as our development agenda. And the intent of this is that they're all connected, that there's connections between the different elements here. And through these goals, there's targets, there's measurements, and we'll explain a little more on that. But this is a plan, essentially, for us to achieve and address some of the biggest challenges we face. And it's between 2015 and 2030. So we're a third of the way through. We have 10 years to go. And it's really critical that we see this happen. And, you know, we all are experiencing at the moment this pandemic, the COVID pandemic. And COVID is something that's changed many of our lives in all kinds of ways, particularly the hospitality industry, in the chefs and F&B industry, because there's been a real shift, because people have not been able to travel. So tourism is down, people are not able to gather. And so there's been challenges around business. There's also been health issues. And so food and nutrition and all of these issues have started to become key. And so this has been absolutely critical. And the goals, these 17 goals, are really a key way for us to also think about pandemics and other things. So let's go to the next slide. And I want to talk to you about, in these 17 goals, even though they're different, food and agriculture is at the heart of the agenda. And food and agriculture is at the heart because food and agriculture connect to everything. So if you think about education, if you don't have the right nutrition, you're not going to be able to focus and learn in the right way. And so all of these elements connect. Gender equity. You know, we know that women produce half of the world's food, but they have less access to land. They have less ownership of land. We know climate change. Agriculture is a key element for causing climate change, but also how we respond, how we solve climate change. It's a problem and a solution. If you think about responsible consumption and production, you think about food waste. When we think about poverty, obviously that is a huge issue, and the ability for people to be able to eat food and eat quality food. Water issues, energy issues, all of these issues connect to the food and agriculture agenda. And so it's really critical for us in achieving the development goals for us to be able to also look at this agenda. Next slide. On our next slide, I just want to show you, under each of these goals, there's 17, but under these goals, there's also targets. And so, for example, under goal 2, which Chef Manjit talked about, which is one of the key goals that we do a lot of work on at the SDG 2 Advocacy Hub, is that there's a number of elements here. So it's about ending hunger, it's about zero hunger, and helping ensure all people have access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food all year round. It's also about ending all forms of malnutrition. And so making sure that we're having the right kinds of food and that food is giving us the nutrients we need. It's also about agricultural productivity and really working on the incomes of small-scale food producers and helping ensure that they're able to feed their families. Many farmers are not able to make ends meet. And I know we're going to have some farmers talking today about some of the challenges and opportunities. We also then are looking at how we produce food. So are our food practices sustainable? Are we being resilient in our agricultural practices? And then also the genetic diversity of seeds, looking at biodiversity, how we farmed and domesticated animals, how all of this is maintaining the diversity that we so rely on. And I know in India, there's so much rich diversity in your food, and it's really important to make sure that we don't lose that. So let's go to the next slide. So as we look at this agenda for the Sustainable Development Goals, this is a set of goals that were set by our world leaders, by the presidents and prime ministers of every country in the world. And yet they're also everyone's goals. They're an agenda for all of us. And that also includes chefs. And so as we started to look at these goals, we started to say, how do these goals help engage with what chefs do each day? And this is where the Chefs Manifesto came from. It came from this idea of connecting this global platform to what chefs do every day. And so through that, we developed this plan. And there's the next slide, shows how we did that. So we wanted to make sure this was designed by chefs for chefs. And so we gathered chefs, as Chef Manjit referenced, in different parts of the world. We gathered in New York, we gathered in London, we gathered in Milan. We also then engaged with people online, and we had chefs from over 38 countries. And it was great that Chef Manjit was active in 2 of those meetings and involved. And it's through this process that we came together and brought that together. I know Chef Connor is on here, who's in the middle there. He's from Ireland. He's a member of our Irish hub there and very active. Chef Arthur, who's here in this photo in the middle, is also going to be speaking tomorrow alongside Chef Mokgadi and also Chef DK from Thailand. So there's a number of people that have been involved in helping form this. And so it was designed in this way to try and take the language of this UN global goals and turn that into something that made sense for chefs in language that chefs understood, created by chefs. So let's go to the next slide. And so this is where this plan came. And this plan came as an action plan with 8 thematic areas. And so these 8 areas are the key areas which we felt in all of the goals are areas that chefs could focus on. And we put them in chefs' language. So we talked about ingredients that were grown with respect for the earth and its oceans. We talked about protection of biodiversity and improved animal welfare. We talked about investment in livelihoods, and that means at the farm level, at the restaurant level, but thinking about the fact that often in the food space, the most important thing is the people. And how do we make sure that they're able to feed their families, to be able to have their livelihoods? And so this has been a very key issue during COVID, is how do you work on livelihoods when restaurants close, sometimes incomes disappear. It's very challenging. And I've heard many stories of restaurant owners, of staff in restaurants really suffering over this time in just being able to put food on the table. And I think this is something that's a real challenge and a problem that we need to talk about. We then talked about valuing natural resources, reducing waste. We talked about celebrating local and seasonal food. We talked about a focus on plant-based ingredients. We talked about education on food safety and healthy diets. And then we also talked about nutritious food that is accessible and affordable for all. Because sometimes we have food, but it's not nutritious. And the question is then, what is it? It's just making you full. If it's not giving you nutrients, then you can't succeed. And if it's not accessible, and that means you can access it. And so that's sometimes in certain parts of the world, there's not that access. Maybe they're very remote. Maybe it's during a crisis where there's a flood, or they're affordable. And sometimes that's a big challenge as well, where people can't afford them. And so it's how do we work for these things? And so this is, from these 8 areas, this is what the Chefs Manifesto Action Plan is built on, these 8 thematic areas. And then what we did was we talked with chefs and we workshopped with chefs and said, okay, looking at these, what are the things that chefs can do in their own kitchens, and what can they ask others to do? And so we wanted to really look at how do we really give practical advice but also know that this advice isn't universal, because what happens in one part of the world, if you're in northern India, for example, it'll be very different to southern India, or it would be very different if you're in the rural environment into the city. And it's the same when we look globally. And sometimes at a global level, we talk about, people say, oh, here's an idea everyone should do. But the problem is it doesn't apply everywhere because our context is different. And so this action plan is very context driven. And what we tried to do was say, how do we develop the right context and really look at how that works so that we can then ensure that everyone everywhere can engage. And so the action plan that we came together on really starts to unpack that. And so it talks about, these things. And so it's like under what we can do in our kitchen, it's getting to know our ingredients. It's looking at, well, what are you using and how are you using it? And how do we use our purchasing power, what we choose to buy, and how can we use this as examples to try and get people engaged? And so this is something that is really key. And so when we think about this, it's chefs. Some examples are chefs engaging with the farmers, and there's farmers that are going to be in the call. I know Sneh is on, and I've been out to Sneh's farm on the outskirts of Delhi. And you think about it, and her farm is growing food with respect for the earth. It's an organic farm. It's got huge biodiversity, and so it's really working sustainably. And so this is the sort of thing that we're talking about. And under each of these, it also talks about how there's different SDGs that this connects to. And so that's something that's really key. So let's go to the next slide. Under number 2, it's talking about protection of biodiversity and improved animal welfare. And we've seen different chefs in different parts of the world work on this. So it really championing biodiversity. And this is something that I've seen happen a lot around India with chefs, where they really talk about different crops, from talking about different forms of millets, for example. One chef that I'll just mention is a chef, Pierre Cham. Pierre is a chef from West Africa, and he's based over in the US, and he works with farmers to really work on funio, and he set up a food company to help get funio into supermarkets and really use it, because it helps support the livelihoods of farmers, but it also increases the biodiversity of what people are eating from a grain perspective. So there's a lot of this kind of conversation going on, and how you do that can be how you advocate. And I see, in the chat, there's conversations and questions. I see a question talking about, making complete sense, but is it possible to execute this effectively from a financial standpoint? And I think this is a real challenge. And, running a restaurant, being a chef, you're running a business, and a business has all kinds of things that it needs to look at. And so I think when you look at that, you have to look at the financial reality of your business. But I know every chef I've spoken to, there's small things they can do that don't cost, that actually save money. There's chefs that we work with that have saved a lot of money through thinking cleverly about their menu design, about using all of the vegetable and not wasting, about thinking. So there's ideas and ways here, I think, that you can make this financially possible, but it requires you to bring your creativity to it. It requires you to really think about how you do that. So let's go to the next one. We'll keep moving through these. So the next one is investment in livelihoods. And this is like really thinking about, how are you paying fair wages? How are you promoting equal opportunities? How are you mentoring and training chefs? I see chefs asking about different qualifications, how to get into the sector. And so this is really critical. In some parts of the world, there is a real shortage of qualified chefs. And people are really looking. In other parts of the world, there's too many. And so, it's like looking at how this all comes together. At the same time, it's also thinking about how do you produce in a fair way that gives a fair price for different goods. I was talking this morning with a chef with two chefs from Hong Kong. And we were talking about the fact that Hong Kong is, as the city of Hong Kong, almost all the ingredients come in from outside. And it's actually the procurement people that control those flows of food coming in. And we were talking about how do we advocate with them to improve the way they do that, because that changes the whole market and it can improve the sustainability. And so these are the kinds of things that we think about that are really critical as we go forward. Next slide. So valuing natural resources and reducing waste is really key. You know, so how do we lead by example here? How do we use our purchasing to really do that? I know I mentioned Chef Connor's on, and Chef Connor has really been a bit of a hero of mine on this in terms of really looking at, he runs a catering business that has multiple sites, did over 2 million meals last year. And it's in Ireland, and he's really focused on looking at all elements of the waste stream. And it's meant that he's got very creative. He's made sure that his chefs are using their brains very hard to think about how to change and how to drive really creativity around this. And he's found ways to kind of move that forward. And that's been really great. You know, one of the things that I was really blown away about was when he was telling me about coffee, and he said one of the things he found was with coffee, people often think about the coffee grinds are wasted, but they, you know, can compost them, they can do all kinds of things, use them in the soil. But then he talked about the husks of the coffee bean, and he got them from the supplier. And I was talking to a friend in Melbourne who's a coffee supplier, and he was saying, we still haven't worked out what to do with the husks. And I said to him, you know, you need to think about how you use them. And so it might be how you kind of bring them in. And so that was kind of something that we were thinking about. And so that's something that we kind of, you know, really think about when you're thinking about this. It's about reducing your waste. It's not getting rid of all waste. It's not saying, but it's also saying value your resources, value the effort the farmer put in to growing that, and see if you can utilize that. Just one second. Okay, so next slide. Let's go to the next slide. So the next one is really celebrating local and seasonal food. There's lots of areas in the chef world where people talk about you should all be local, you should use just local. But local doesn't work in some parts of the world, because in some parts of the world, it doesn't make sense to grow everything really locally. In other parts of the world, it might make sense to grow something because it has a lower impact. And so there's this kind of push and prod around that. And so what we say is that you should celebrate local and seasonal food. And so you use your power as a producer to purchase food that's in season. To think about, you know, how you showcase and champion different local foods in your community. The next one that we had was to really focus on plant-based ingredients. And so focusing on plant-based ingredients. And what we say here is that we're not saying that everyone should become vegan or vegetarian. But what we find is that globally, there's a big gap. And what we need to do is really look at how we prioritize vegetables, how we bring them to the center of the dish. Often we think about animal-based proteins often as the center of the dish in many parts, except obviously India, where there's a vegetarian cuisine, and vegetarian food has been such an amazing part of your heritage for so long. But in many parts of the world, that's the opposite. They've moved away from vegetarian food to very much a meat-centric diet. In my part of the world in Australia, it's very much like that. And so what we've tried to do is really say, how do we bring them together? How do you use less and better meat? How do we champion plant-based proteins? There's a number of pieces of science that have come out that have said that globally, as the population continues to grow, if everyone keeps eating animal-based proteins at the level that they are, we're going to have a major issue around our climate and around our land. And so we need to really change the dynamic, the way we see it on a plate. And that means eating more plant-based ingredients. And so this is something about also how do you do training? I know the Cordon Bleu, which is obviously a very famous French training college. I know many chefs have been there. I know Chef Anahita went there. Other chefs that I know have been there. They have just recently, last year, started a plant-based course and certificate. And this is the first time they'd run it. They ran it out of their London training college. And it was so oversubscribed, they're now looking at expanding the program. And we were able to go there and lecture and be a part of it. And that was really great. So let's go to the next slide. So the next one is 7, which is education on food safety and healthy diets. Food safety is obviously very critical for keeping people well. And then also healthy diets. How do we educate people about what they should eat? Supporting good nutrition, helping make sure people are understanding this, and how we can develop food champions. And so this is something that we do, you know, using events like International Chef Day, World Food Day, you know, holidays to get creative, to really encourage people to use nutritious cooking. We're having a demonstration from Chef Gayatri a little bit later, and I know Chef Gayatri uses her Instagram channel. She makes great videos. She works with students, with kids, and teaches them about how to eat a healthy diet, how to cook and use different ingredients, and that's absolutely great. It's really critical, and so this is great. The next one, let's go to 8. Okay, so nutritious food that's accessible and affordable to all. And so this is really about what I talked a little bit earlier about, is how do we help support governments to act on global nutrition commitments? How do we make sure that people get the right nutrients? And this can be in all kinds of ways. You can look at things like biodiversity, mixing up the food that people are eating so they're getting more nutrition. It can be even things like fortification, how you could fortify certain staples so that people that have a very low income can have basic nutrients and micro and macronutrients. And so there's all these kinds of things about how you can bring that in and that affordability. It's also then saying, how do you raise awareness using social media about food issues and how to be part of the solution? So I know this is all very, very critical to take it forward. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the Chefs Network actually is over now 700 chefs in actually over 88 countries. So things are growing. I think it actually might be over 800 chefs because more chefs have been signing up. And so as we continue to grow, we have chefs spread around the world, which is great. And so what we would love to do is encourage and bring more chefs into the mix that are active from all different areas of the chef space. We want people that have got, you know, 30, 40 years experience, right through to students, because everyone can make a difference no matter where you are and where you're working. So let's go to the next slide. So I encourage you to check out the Chefs Manifesto website. It's chefsmanifesto.com. When you go there, you'll find resources, you'll find stories about other chefs, you'll find a calendar that you can see there, which has events that are coming up. And you can also join, and you can set up a profile on the website. If you go to the next slide, you can sign up. And when you sign up, you can click that you're a chef. You need to do that on the there. And as a chef, then what you'll get added to that map. You'll also then be getting given a newsletter that comes out once a month that helps to keep you in the loop. This newsletter has information about how chefs can get involved. We share stories, we share updates, and each month that comes out with tools for you to be an advocate. And so if you're interested in this space, you want to learn, if you sign up, then you can start to think about and learn from how you can add value. And then we invite you to events like this, where we have these conversations, where we have these kinds of discussions, where you can hear from other chefs, you can share ideas, you can get involved. And we do these at the moment because of COVID, they're all online. And so you're seeing them happen in different parts of the world, but you can also participate and join. So we have others from around the world joining in India. And normally that would only be, people that can be in a location. And so it's great to see that we've got this breadth. So the other way to get involved is if you go to our social media. So the Chefs Manifesto is on all the major social media platforms. And so particularly Instagram, we use a lot. It's at Chefs Manifesto. And if you follow that, if you're not already, please follow, please tag us, please share information. We try and tell stories on there. We try and share information of chefs and what they're doing as a way of learning. And so we're always looking for new ideas. We're always looking for new content, and that's great. And then on the next, so the next one, Barbara, we might just skip the video, I think, just for time. So let's just jump ahead. Okay, and then I just want to talk to you now. We're going to shift tack. I just want to tell you a little bit about a platform that we've developed called Good Food for All. And I just want you to check this out to see it. So one of the things when we talk about food and we talk about how to engage in food, we've developed this new platform called Good Food for All. And Good Food for All is a new way of talking about the Sustainable Development Goal 2 and the opportunities and challenges. And so what it does is it focuses away from a technical conversation in a way to inspire the public and people that support the work that we do. And it has these 8 pillars which connect to different interrelated topics and brings this inclusion of diverse voices. So if you look at these topics, it talks about good food beginning with farmers. Good food is nutritious. Good food saving lives, being vulnerable to disruption, and not always a choice, but provides power for people and economies, and that it makes progress possible, but also that it's about love. And I know whenever we come to food, you come to the table, and if we were together now, we would be bringing food and sharing food and talking about food, and we would smell the aromas and we would be together, and that would create these memories which connect us in such a powerful way. And so this platform is designed around these pillars. And so this is another way where we're looking for people to engage. It's talking about the fact that we all fight for something, progress, people, planet, but that we can together build a better future for everyone everywhere. And that it's without good food, no other progress is possible. So I really encourage you to take a look at this platform and really follow it. We've got the social media, it's got its own website, but there's also some social media hooks there at Good Food for All /SDG2 on Instagram, and then on the hashtag Good Food for All. So Barbara, we'll jump ahead to just jump ahead to, let's see where you are. Do you want to go ahead and a couple more? Perfect. So there's the tags and the website, and then on to the next, let's jump the video. We'll send these videos out to you. I think it might be better. So I just want to now transition to some of the advocacy opportunities for this year. Back one. Obviously this year, the COVID-19 has been a major issue for us. And so COVID-19 has touched and impacted so many parts of our lives and continues to. And so how we build back from that is going to be critical in this year. And 2021 is a really critical year because there's a number of global events that are happening. So there's the UN Food Systems Summit, there's the COP26, there's the Nutrition for Growth Summit, there's the Generation Equality, there's the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Ocean Conference, and the UN Environment Assembly. All of these events are happening, and they really showcase around this big moment called the UN Food Systems Summit. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the UN Food Systems Summit, and I'm going to invite a guest now to come and join me. So Katie Taft is the communications lead for the UN Food Systems Summit, and she oversees all of the communications for this massive effort, and has had a long history working for the United Nations, for the International Fund for Agricultural Development for many years, and is a great friend. And so it's great. I asked her to give me a few minutes of her time. And so Katie, welcome. Barbara, we'll put the slides off for just a minute and we'll come back to them later, just so we can see each other. Perfect. Good to see you, Katie. Okay, you're on mute still. Whoa.
There we go. Hi.
Hi, Katie.
Of course, on a Monday, I'm on mute. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. And I guess a Happy New Year. We can still say that.
I think it is still. I think the year started very, very fast, but it is a good new year. So Katie, can you just, where are you at the moment? And just tell us a little bit about what your role is. I've just given a short intro, but what are you working on?
Sure, yes. So I am Katie Taft. I am leading, as Paul said, the communication efforts for the Food System Summit. I'm located in Italy. I actually changed jobs in the middle of lockdown last year at my kitchen table. And I was previously with the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Not sure if you know them, but it's a UN agency and financing institution. So we started the secretariat for the summit. We're very small at 3 people, so it was almost like a startup. Now we have 16 people, so it's still a very lean secretariat, standing up all of the work streams and outreach that we need to do in order to get as many voices into this process as possible.
Thank you, Katie. Absolutely. So this is a UN Secretary General Summit, which is kind of like, sounds like a big deal to me. So like, what makes this summit really unique and a real moment for us?
Yeah, so you know, there's several things that make this summit unique. You know, this was brought forward by the Rome-based agencies, the food agencies of the UN, to the Secretary General in 2019. And they proposed this. And what makes it really unique is the fact that the Secretary General has called for as many voices to be a part of this as possible. So this is not a moment in time in the future. It's not a negotiating process in terms of everybody gets together at one particular moment and hashes out what needs to happen for food systems. This process starts now. So we have several areas of engagement. We've opened our doors, if you will, and said, okay, come in and have your voice heard. So we have a Food System Summit community, which we are officially launching actually this week. And hopefully you'll be able to share links with everybody afterwards. Yep. The community is a working space for people to discuss, comment on discussion papers, and talk about what works and what doesn't for them. Then we also have the Food System Summit dialogues. And this is really where I think this group could possibly be really united and a force. So the dialogues, and again, we'll share links afterwards, but the dialogues are a way to actually literally have a conversation around a particular theme or area or several areas around food systems. And anybody can do a dialogue and feed back into the summit. That includes school teachers, community groups, churches, and definitely chefs. So we'll provide all of that. But I would urge everyone to not think of the summit as something in the future. I would urge people to think that this is something that they need to get engaged now. If you're there in September, it's too late.
Yeah. So it started now, it's on now. And so this is super interesting. You talk about a food system summit. Why is it a food system summit and not a food summit?
That's a good question. So, you know, historically, there have been many food summits, and the last one with the Committee on Food Security, who we work with very closely in this process as well. They're sitting in our leadership roles. You know, it didn't work when you're looking at through a lens of just food. you really need to look at the entire system. And when you're looking through a food system lens, you really see that there's progress that can be made on all 17 SDGs. That connects into every single goal that we need to have we need to progress on by 2030. And even more importantly, this was the Food Systems Summit was hatched in 2019, but of course, 2020, everybody had a real wake-up call as to how our systems are failing us. COVID really had shed a spotlight on the failings. You know, we had millions of liters of milk being dumped in the UK because cafes and bars were not open. And at the same time, in Bangladesh, you have families cutting their food intake by 70% because they've lost their jobs or they can't get to their farms. So something's not working when we're dumping that amount of food, and yet on the other side of the world, they don't have enough to really get their families to survive. So I think and you know, developing and developed countries had seen the impact, and certainly chefs, restaurateurs, waiters, all of the business that has taken the hugest hit. And we have to figure out, and this is where the voices of chefs are really, really important. We have to figure out, where do we go from here? How do we fix the system so that it's working for everyone?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, this is part of the reason why the Chefs Manifesto exists with this network. And it's great to have a big group on for the next 2 days talking about just that. They're debating some of these issues. How do we think about the food system, and what role can we play locally, but also how does that connect globally? So, like, thinking about this summit, you know, who do you think's got the most to gain from this summit?
Yeah, I think the ones, it's interesting who has the most to gain. I'm hoping, given what I've just said, that everybody has the most to gain. You know, we make choices about our food, most of us anyway, and if we're lucky enough, 3 times a day. We're making choices as to where we get our food, what kind of food we put into our bodies. And so really, food is absolutely everything in our life. But I think the people who have the most to gain and the people who should be most engaged in this is the young people. The Secretary General saw from the Climate Action Summit, you might remember the amazingly powerful speech by Greta at the Climate Action Summit. That was a real wake-up call for the UN and certainly for the leadership of the UN. And the Secretary General has mandated for us, the Secretariat, you have to engage youth. They can't sit at the proverbial kids table. It can't be tokenism. They have to be truly engaged. And so that's another actually unique thing about this summit is that every single support structure, every single leadership structure, so our advisory group, Champions Network, every single, along the way, we have youth leaders. And they're not just sitting there on the sidelines, they're truly engaged. Yeah. One of our youth leaders who's involved in an action track actually has a petition against the UN, not against the UN, but for the UN to change its catering services for a plant-based diet. And I love that we have invited her in, not even invited her in, we opened the door and said, can you come in? Because we need your voice. So I think that's what makes this really exciting. And I do hope that the young people will get involved. This is their future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thanks, Katie. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's very busy at the moment getting ready for the summit because the summit has begun. And so there's a lot going on. In terms of just what people can do to keep in touch, what would you say as the communications lead, what would you say is the number one thing people should do to keep in touch with this summit?
I think they need to sign up to be a food systems hero. Once you sign up, it's kind of our newsletter, but it's even more powerful than a newsletter. It's going to be a two-way conversation. We're going to keep you up to date on how you can engage. Right now, we have action track surveys. We can send you those links so that you can have your say in each one of the 5 priority areas of the summit. We also have discussion papers up in our summit community, and we can guide you to all of that if you sign up to be a food system hero, and we'll send you over the link, Paul.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. Well, I really appreciate you giving us your time. And what I'm going to do now is just go over a couple of those links and just give that to people, just so that we reinforce that for people. But we'll make sure that we get some food system heroes signed up by the end of this. And also, I'm sure the chef community will be very keen to engage and be an active part of the conversation leading into the summit and over the summit period. And so I know there's a number of people from India engaged already in different leadership positions, but I think the chef community I know is very powerful and very well organized and will step up. So thank you, Katie, for joining us, and have a great week.
Thank you. And I forgot to actually tell everyone that Paul is actually one of our leading champions for our champion network. So we're really happy to have him on board, but we want to hear from all of you sincerely. So please sign up and engage and get your voice heard. Thanks,
Perfect.
Paul.
Thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. Okay, Barbara, we've got a poll going. I'm going to be speaking for another 5 or 10 minutes and just go over some of the key points that I think are really critical around this food system summit. But it was so great to hear from Katie directly what are some of the reasons why this summit that's coming up matters, why this summit is important for us as a community, as a network of chefs, to really be active and use our voices. And so I'm just going to take you through that. But just as we're going, please feel free to jump into the poll and just put your votes in for what you think you're going to get involved in. Obviously, you can do them all, but we also are interested in what you would like to commit to. So let's go, Barbara. We'll go to the next slide. So this is obviously a summit, as Katie mentioned, that's brought together by the UN Secretary General, and it's really about raising this ambition around food system transformation, and really in that transformation of an achievement of the SDGs and the global goals. And it's also to try and increase our understanding of the issues that we have to solve and set a course to radically transform our food system. As UN summits go, they appointed Dr. Agnes Kalibata as the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the summit, and she is leading the community and the network around the summit in a great way. And she has a background working in agriculture. She's originally from Rwanda, was agriculture minister for Rwanda, and just has an amazing story. Is a daughter of a farmer as well. And is bringing that information, that experience to leading this summit. The summit has started already, and there's a lot going on online, but it's going to be physically also hosted in Rome and then New York. And there's going to be something in Rome in the middle of the year, and then in New York over September. And so these will be the moments where they come together to really finalize some of the work that's happening in the lead up. So let's go to the next one. Katie mentioned that there's these action tracks, and that they have leadership of youth and others involved. And these action tracks are designed to be areas in which really there's deep looking into using science-based information from a science advisory group to really think about what are the game-changing solutions that can be brought to these different issues. And so you'll see there, ensuring access to safe and nutritious food for all, which is obviously something very close and passionate in the Good Food for All campaign, and also the Chefs Manifesto. And that action track is really looking at those solutions around how do we get food to everyone. And then there's action track 2, which is looking at shifting to sustainable consumption patterns. This is looking at nutrition and diet. It's looking at food waste and loss. And really about how do we change to a more sustainable system. Action track 3 is about boosting nature positive production. So how do we actually not just not affect, but also it's positive. So we're actually giving back to nature in the way that we're addressing things. And then number 4 is about equitable livelihoods. So it goes back to really looking at the livelihoods of farmers and those in the foods industry. And then action track 5 is really about building our resilience. We're in the middle of a big shock at the moment with COVID-19, but this is about building our resilience to those vulnerabilities and shocks and stresses. And so that's that. In terms of becoming a food system hero, Katie mentioned it. And so if you go to the website, and we'll drop the website and the link into the chat, but if you go to there, you can sign up, and it basically just shares, says you're going to adhere to the principles of the summit and the vision, and then you'll be kept in touch with what's going on. And so that's something that's really, really key for people to have a look at. The food system dialogues, which is another area. And so Katie mentioned that as well. The food system dialogues is basically an approach for discussion to bring together discussions around the food system. And this is something that we might want to do as a group of chefs in the next couple of months. We might want to regather and have one of these dialogues. There's going to be these dialogues happening at the government level between October last year and May. They're going to also be happening at global level at international events, and then these independent dialogues where people can organize them at the local level, and there's a toolkit, and you can then organize it and then feed into the summit. The next area is the Food Systems Summit community. And the Food Systems Summit community is a space, it's an online platform to share information, to share ideas and learn from one another. And so that's just been launched and people can sign up and get involved. So overall, the next slide is really, you can get involved. There's a website about the summit. You can join as a hero, you can join the community, you can follow them on Instagram and Twitter as well at UN Food Systems. And this is a way for people to really get involved. So in terms of from the takeaway from what I've shared with you all today, is the Chefs Manifesto is a network that's designed to help bring in and bring together chefs to drive action with a common framework that we can use. So the conversations that we're going to go into today can all reference that framework, and it means that we can all talk about the different contributions we're doing. Just because you're coming to the Chefs Manifesto new, or you've been involved for a long time, you're still probably doing actions that are within this framework. And so you have something to bring. And not everyone's going to do everything. People are going to have things they focus on, and we need to celebrate that. We need to support them. And so this is what the Chefs Manifesto is about. And then at key moments like the UN Food Systems Summit, we gather together and work together to try and drive action. And so this is what we're talking about today. And so the chefs that have been involved, Chef Manjit, Chef Anahita, and many of the other chefs are involved in being advocates under the manifesto. They've signed up as a chef, and they're getting the information, they're participating, they're using their influence in this way. And then they also are using moments on the global calendar to raise their voice, whether that be online or in person, or through their different networks. And so this is something that's really critical. So I want to thank you for joining us. We've got a super exciting program today and tomorrow. And it's great to see the conversations happening in the chat. I'm going to hand over to the esteemed MC for today, Chef Soundararajan, who is helping us coordinate and lead. So thank you so much, Chef, for your amazing support and work and partnership in this endeavor. It's been great getting to know you, and thank you for your leadership. And so I'm going to hand over to you to take us through the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to the participants, delegates, speakers. First of all, I'd like to thank Paul Newnham for providing this great opportunity to IFCA, and also providing this opportunity to me to anchor the program for today. This is Chefs Manifesto India Action Hub 2021. The Chefs Manifesto is a chef-led network bringing together 460 chefs. I think the numbers have gone up now to 750 from around the world to explore how they can help deliver a sustainable food system. With 300 billion people malnourished globally and a food production system damaging the planet, we, the chefs, farmers, policymakers, and world leaders need to work together to deliver a sustainable, nutritious, and delicious food for future. Thank you for coming on this two-day conference on the Chefs Manifesto. Thank you very much. I'm sure we are seeing a lot of students, the culinary educators, culinarians, chefs, and entrepreneurs and restaurant owners on this program. So this program is going to be a 2-day program. The first day, you will have a panel discussion immediately after this on COVID challenges. Then we'll have a cooking demonstration by Chef Gayatri. Then we will have a presentation and a walkthrough by Mr. Vimal Arogyaraj, who has created a nitrogen-free farm. And then, yes, definitely students play a major role in the sustainability of the future. And I'm sure Chef Rajiv Gulshan will take us through the students' engagement in the future. So the today's programs looks like that. This is 2 days program. And so the today's program will go up to 6 o'clock. We will try our best to keep the time intact. I'm sure you will all support us and make this event a grand success. And thank you, Paul Newnham, to bring this event, virtual event to India. Thank you very much for involving Indian chefs and India. Thank you. So this first day focus is on COVID, covering the COVID and how United Nations Food System Summit and good food for all. And the second day will be on thematic areas, including nutrition, eat right, diversity. That is going to be the second day. So please listen to these speakers. They have done a lot of preparation before coming to this summit. And I'm sure there are 20 esteemed speakers are lined up over these 2 days who will bring a lot of knowledge to you. Okay, now let us go to the first session. The first session is the first panel discussion. I'm sure we have never heard in life such a event, such a pandemic. We have never heard. I have never heard in my living memory. There are so many ups and downs in the history of this planet, but this one is one of the different things which is not in our living memory. So the world has come to a standstill in the last 6 to 7 months. So this panel, starting from the moderator, Chef Vijaya Baskaran, I like to introduce Chef Vijaya Baskaran. He is the Vice President of the Indian Federation of Culinary Associations, and he is also placed in the Global Innovation Center of the Newnham International leading agri and food business company, and he is also the co-founder and director of Everything Recycles Limited, yes, socially responsible and innovative startup. We have also Mr. Harpal Singh Ji, a great organic farmer and who has got award from EPEDA for organic experts in 2 consecutive years and presently working on socio-economic sustainable farming energy and farm business in India. And we have also Dr. Joshita Lambasaini, who is a nutrition consultant from World Bank, who has done a lot of work during this COVID. She has written a lot of journals, national and international, and has done a lot of work in the Export Inspection Council of India and Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. And now, presently, she's driving the most prestigious Eat Right India movement in India through the FSSAI. We have Sneh Yadav, who chose farming, given a choice of 2 choice of profession. So she post-graduated in plant genetics, and she has started Tijara Organic Farms in 2011. So we have the panel for managing challenges for 2020 on COVID. So we have Chef Vijay Baskaran, Mr. Harpal Singh Ji, Dr. Joshita, Ms. Sneha. Over to Chef Vijay Baskaran.
Thank you, Chef Soundararajan, for the introduction. And I also welcome the panel. Of course, they have been introduced. So going back to Dr. Paul Newman's talk a little bit earlier, I'm happy to say that I've been always working in the hotels. So recently I moved to one down the line. I've gone closer to the farmers now. So I work for a food ingredients company. So it's very interesting. So one thing interesting, Paul was saying in his thing, what do you do with the coffee cherries, which is called cascara? So, we should be happy to know that companies are actually working on the sustainability models. And then happy to say that our company is actually actively looking at cascara as a profitable ingredient, not a waste. People also would have heard about the story of whey protein, how the whey water was being let out in the streams and was environmental hazard earlier, but now that's become a business proposition. Whey protein is sold at such an expensive rate in the gyms and all that you might have seen. So these are some stories from the food service sector, how we can actually make most out of the wastages, or how we can actually engage the farmer in a more productive manner. So what I will do, for this session, I would request my panelists to give their thoughts about the subject, the COVID, how it has affected them or how it has affected in general, what is the future plan, how we are coming out of it successfully. So I'll call upon them one by one. So let them speak for a couple of minutes. Then I will ask some questions to them. I also encourage the participants to shoot out the questions in the Q&A. Then we'll try to address them right away, or else we'll come back to you a little later. So I also, first I would like to call Ms. Sneha Yadav. I also know that she has done 100 types of crops in 10 acres. This is what I heard. So that sounded very interesting. Over to you, Sneha. You please also maybe switch on your video also. It'll be lovely.
Thank you, Chef Baskaran. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this panel of esteemed personalities. Yes, after doing my post-graduation, I wanted to check what is happening, whatever I have learned in my lab, does it really work on the land? That was the motive of starting farming. And I'm doing biodynamic farming, which is like the core thumb rule of biodynamic farming is sustainability. So according to this, like every farm is a small ecosystem, and 80% requirement of that ecosystem has to be fulfilled from that ecosystem. Components may be farmers' animals, soil, plants, reptiles, insects, birds, or whatever. So it attracted me towards biodynamic farming because it talks sustainability in a great way. But now my focus is more towards regenerative farming. So regenerative farming is, as we all know, farming, like topsoil will last for another 50, 60 years. And after that, it will get destroyed. And if we don't pay attention right now, our future is very bleak. So we all have to focus on regenerative farming. So in regenerative farming, we are not talking only about sustainability, but we are talking about enhancing our resources. And the best resource is soil. So we have to increase the carbon content of the soil. We have to increase the water content of the soil, biodiversity of the soil. So I'm focusing more towards it. During COVID region, of course, we faced few challenges. We were supplying to few institutes, few organizations, like chefs were supporting us in a big way. But due to COVID region, that supply channel got stopped. But then we started focusing on individuals, and we realized that now this is the time everybody has started focusing on their food. Now the time has come that people have started giving attention to their food, what they are eating. It has become a first priority. Unfortunately, in this world of progress and development, the food had become the last priority. But this COVID has brought sense to everyone, and now it has become the first priority. Now, again, coming back to the soil, if we focus on the health of the soil, it will give us nutrient dense food. And malnutrition will be, we will be able to take care of malnutrition up to a great extent if we focus on our soil. That is the key of good health. So my suggestion to all the farmers and all the chefs is to look for the farms where soil health is being considered the most important thing, and biodiversity of the soil and sorry, yes please.
No, so please go ahead, no problem, please go ahead.
So biodiversity of the soil comes with the biodiversity of the crop. Second thing is, like I always suggest chefs, that don't force your farmers to grow this thing and that thing. Let your farmer grow things which are suitable for the soil, which are suitable for the water content of the area, which are suitable for the climate of the area, and then make that crop popular. And I am fortunate, I have got great support from all young chefs and prominent chefs like Chef Gill, Chef Anahita, Chef Vanshika, and all other chefs for making this project very successful. They are helping me in making simple Rajasthani forage food popular, and people have given so much of attention to this part of the farming. So 100 crops is not the end. I am planning to have more and more crops, and more and more regional and indigenous crop. That is the aim of life.
That's very nice to hear, Sneh, because there were days earlier where chefs used to take a lot of pride in designing special menus. And then they used to take a lot of pride in saying that I flew this from there and flew this from there. I think chefs have over a period of time really changed. The local farmers are getting involved with the chefs, and the chefs are getting involved with the local farmers. It's a very, very healthy sign for the future. Yeah, but we have a long way to go. I'm very sure we'll go. I will also like to, I'm very sure during the course of this discussion, we'll also have a lot of questions coming out. So, sure. Yeah, so one thing is chefs have learned to work with the local farmers and try to do the local food, or use the local ingredients to make some exotic food. Not anymore that I flew this and then having a greater carbon footprint there. So next, okay. I would like to invite Harpal Singh Ji. I think he's been doing organic farming since long time, even before everything was told that organic food is healthy. And in India, unfortunately, what happened, we are always organic. We are always doing good practices long back, but then we followed the fertilizer model, and the fertilizer was subsidized, and so many things came in between. So we went up behind them, and then of course we had our own challenge of food not being enough in the country. But now we are going and back and discovering our own roots. As you said, the soil, I think we celebrate Bhumi in our country more than any other country. We always do. We always respect the Mother Earth. We always respect. I think we'll have to put that respect into practice. Harpal Singh Ji, your thoughts about farming, COVID, and how you are going to look at the future?
Hello, good day. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay. First, I must thank Manjit Ji and all the panel. I'm a farmer by birth, and I started organic farming in '92. And I have the privilege of being the first organic farmer in North India. And slowly, the government also got note of it, and the thing started. We had the first company called Indian Organic Food, which won the APIDA Award twice, and we introduced organic exports to APIDA. So that's a short story. Then there was a steering committee made by the central government, and I'm one of the founder members of it. Now coming to the pandemic and all, actually it's a long story, but as well as the subject is too vast, I'll try to compress in few words. I like Snehaji mentioned about biodynamic. Basically, biodynamic has started from India itself. Like we have our tradition is all based on farming. All the rituals, ceremonies, all the festivals are based on farming. And that farming is based on celestial movement, and which is called Panchang. So Panchang is the basic origin of biodynamic farming. Rudolf Steiner started with only the 4 lectures in Europe. The Europeans didn't know about it. Rudolf Steiner was in India and he learned it from India itself. If we go back, why I'm saying it, if we go back to our origin, which is Vedic farming, or like we have so many books or granths, we can call it, which explain about the real farming scene, what's the relationship with the nature and how the farming should be done. And that is like Nighantu Prakash, Vrikshayurveda, and there are so many different books which explain this. And as far as the pandemic is concerned, I've gone through it, and it's absolutely 100% mishandled. This wasn't a much of it. And you see, we are so prejudiced and biased towards the pharmaceutical industry, so biased. They don't give an inch to Ayurveda. And through the papers, I have learned it, that Ayurveda stands first as far as the curing, like COVID-19 patients and all. And I've gone through myself, and I have experience of it. And there's not much time here which I can explain on it. But Ayurveda comes on top. Now, same is for the farming. Our farming is based on Ayurveda. And Ayurveda, most of us, we are living Ayurveda. Just recent times and sometimes before, during the British time, we were taken away from Ayurveda. But we need to come back to it. The present science, I say it's not complete. Even the farming is not taught in the colleges, in the schools, and it's all what is being taught is chemiculture, and we get misled. Agriculture and chemiculture are 2 different things. They're not the same thing. So we need to focus more on our origin, where we belong to, and that is Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the root of everything. Whatever like chef, you want to cook something, if you cook on the basis of Ayurveda, because food is the one which makes a person sick, and by eating a person gets cured. So that is what I've been talking to Mr. Gill, that like whatever I am producing at my farm is non-allergen. If a person we have this, like 29 years experience now, if anybody is allergic to rice, gram, wheat, or anything like mustard oil or vegetables, etc., if they consume from our farm, and if the particular person is allergic to a particular vegetable or any other substance which we are producing, if they consume from our farm produce, they will not have allergy. That is where the organic farming comes to. Today's organic farming is 100% compromised. Since last 30 years, 30th year I'm going in 100% organic, we haven't used any weedicide, any fungicide, I mean chemical I'm talking about, and any so-called fertilizer. I don't call them fertilizer, I call them boosters. Wrong names have been given. They are not fertilizer at all. I have challenged the platforms all over the world. You prove me it is a fertilizer. You see, a lot of words have really misled us. Like one person said fertilizer, and we have started saying fertilizer. Sir, if somebody reads Sir Albert Howard had criticized Liebig that you have done a crime against the humanity. But Liebig's, apology was deleted from Encyclopedia Britannica, and which I call, an intellectual corruption. And we are the victims of intellectual corruption. The total world should take, lessons from Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the origin. Ayurveda can cure anything. Firstly, if you are eating in accordance with Ayurveda, one doesn't get sick. And if there are some, lacking or some problems, Ayurveda is the one which is going to cure. So I am propagating the local herbs. Like I just give an example to the chefs. Nobody has ever bothered to Bathua, which is Chinopodium. Nobody is bothered to find out its protein value. It goes up to 35 to 45%. And when we make a Punjabi saag of mustard, without Bathua, without Chinopodium, we cannot make it, we cannot balance it.
Yes.
You see, people have other things like, now Bathua is basically a weed. And I studied lots and lots on the weeds. And once we switch over to organic farming, the weeds change as well. Before organic farming, when we're doing chemical farming, there are negative weeds. Once we shift over to organic farming, there are positive weeds.
True.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's there. You see, problem is nobody is teaching organic farming or farming itself. They are teaching chemiculture. That they are building a nursery for the chemical industry. They are not building the farmers or agriculturists. They are building only chemiculturists. You see, any graduate, you ask a question, simple farming questions, they don't have an answer. So that's an unfortunate part of it. Then at the moment, nobody is following the food law. The food law, because the health ministry, I was in touch and they wanted me to give them some tips, I gave them, and they made a food law. They did amendment in food law in 2011. And that amendment was, you see, they kind of fixed the chemical residues, whatever it is, that it should not be above this. So if you go and check the food law amendment 2011, you will find it. Now there is a law, but nobody follows. Even the chefs don't know there is a food law already in place.
Okay.
If you are buying vegetables, if you are buying anything for your hotel, it should at least comply the food law. I'm not talking about organic at the moment, but let's start from the food law.
Food law. Okay.
Nobody is bothering about it. If that thing happens, that will automatically encourage organic farming.
Very good.
Today, like you go to the vegetable market, you go there. Do you know that it complies the food law? It doesn't. Even the head of agronomy, who recommends the package of practice, who knows his package of practice is complying the food law?
Yeah.
So government, I'm sorry to say, government is not interested in people's health or farming or anything. We're all interconnected.
Yes.
The health ministry should be involved in it. The agriculture ministry should be involved in it, as well as the farmers should be involved in it. Today's farming is not scientific at all. I challenge. I'm sorry, I'm 74 now, and I think it's the last leg of my life. Vanprastha. So I should come up with the truth. Otherwise, some people are diplomatic, they try to down. I don't do that. Because unless I speak the truth, how would people realize it? How will they waken up to this? The food law should be, at least a benchmark where we should, all the hotels should at least request that any food which is coming to their hotel should comply the food law. That should be the basics. Now
Yes,
coming
sir.
to the as I have already explained, the foods, the produce, whichever is produced at my farm is anti-allergen. Anybody can test. Anybody can test. But I cannot write it down because the pharmaceutical industry has too deep pockets. They will destroy everything. And as far as the soil structure is concerned, now we are into socio-economic sustainability theme, but we do farming holistically. Proper crop rotations are followed. Like after basmati, I sow gram along with wheat. Like we have sown black wheat along with gram, because black wheat its medicinal value is very high. It's anti-diabetic, and there are so many benefits of it, as well as it will give us economic benefit as well. The farmers, those who want to join the farming or organic farming, they have to have the crop.
Oscar, you have 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You see, I was wondering how much I can compress.
No. You raised very important points, Harpal Singh Ji, because we need to look at the law. We need to look at whether the compliance of law is there, whether the universities are having the right curriculum, whether the certification of organic products are excellent. So I will, because we have another panelist also waiting to speak, Dr. Joshita Lamba.
I'm ready for questions. Whatever I say.
Questions are coming up. Actually, you answered one question even before. Somebody was asking a question about how do you control the weeds in the farm, but you already answered the question. I would now invite Dr. Joshita Lamba, whom we know personally because the World Bank program was sponsored, and we had a very successful program of Net Profan, wherein all the 6 associations in the country was, and she was the key figure behind that. Welcome, Dr. Joshita Lamba. Over to you now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So yes, I know that COVID has made a huge impact on the food industry, mainly because of there is a change in demand of consumer, there is closure of food production facilities, there is change in food supply system also. So for that, at FSSAI and at India national level, many changes have been made post-COVID and during COVID as well. So during the initial period only, the FSSAI has taken many stringent steps. And to starting with that, I just want to give brief about Eat Right India, one of the key initiative of Food Safety Science Authority of India, which has 3 pillars, that is eat healthy, then eat safe, and eat sustainable. And we are catering to supply side also and demand side also. And the main focus of this movement is to create a social behavioral change among all stakeholders, be it who is making the food and who is consuming the food. So this is a very new initiative which was started in 2018, and during COVID also, because of the initiatives which were already happening, we were able to have many activities and many things which were dealt during COVID time. So one such initiative was Net Profan. Net Profan is a network of association of professionals working in the area of foods, nutrition, and public health. So it is a very unique model, which I am sure that it is not there in anywhere in the world, and it is happening in India. And we have a huge support from IFCA, one of the key organizations in Net Profan. So what we have done is we have created small city chapters of communities like Indian Dietetic Association, Nutrition Society of India, IFCA, then there's a AOAC, food analysts are also there, AFSTI, food scientists are also there. So a whole lot of 7 unique associations have combined their forces and formed different city chapters. So they are working unanimously and with a key message so that a uniform message is spread to different stakeholders and we can reach to grassroots level. So during COVID time, what I can just quickly run through what FSSAI has done, that they have reduced the licensing fees. They have extended the licensing time so that all the food business operators, all the food companies are at ease. So we are not rushing through that. And we have also developed COVID training modules for food handlers. And we have imparted to more than 50,000 food handlers online training how to deal during COVID. And we have come out with two guidelines for them, that is food hygiene and safety guideline for food business operators during COVID and post-COVID also, how we can deal with this. And one is eat right during COVID. So this is a very unique handbook, which is freely available on Eat Right India website. Anybody can download that, how COVID, each and every association can help us, and how each and every individual can adapt those things and remain fit, because at this time during COVID, immunity is key. And second part is keeping our environment also safe. So whatever we are taking from the environment, we are giving it back. So another one of the key initiative is promoting local seasonal foods. So at FSSAI, we have developed many social behavioral videos, many messages which can be circulated and to promote local seasonal foods in our country. We have come out with various competitions and we are awarding winners who are submitting recipes, local seasonal recipes. They can submit their videos, they can submit their recipes. And we have come out with a unique recipe book as well, in which some of the vegetables which are not being used at extensively but are very healthy and are locally produced, the recipes, there are recipes for that. And every Sunday we provide a recipe of the week of we take one vegetable and we promote that during 1 month. So IFCA has helped us, and they are there and they are working with even nutritionists, even dietitians, to reformulate many recipes, traditional recipes also, and the processed food recipes, to reduce the quantity of salt, sugar, and fat, and to reduce trans fat in our diet. So these are the few of the many initiatives which are happening at FSSAI, and we are promoting sustainable development. And our goal is to eat sustainable is one of the goal. So at this point, we are doing that. And another initiative is I would like to share about is Save Food, Share Food. We are promoting take that much food only, which is required by you. And if food is left, we have also created one network in which we have collaborated with Vodafone, and website is also created. One link toll-free number is also there. If food is left, there is a huge amount of leftover food which is not being used. You have to ring that number. Someone will come and pick that food and distribute in those who are needy. So with this, I would like to hand over back to Dr. Baskaran, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Joshida. There have been some questions about food law, which Saab has raised, but some questions can't be answered here because implementation of law is a very difficult thing in our country. I should commend FSA being from the FSA used to be an inspecting authority earlier, but that department has set an example in our country how to work with the various stakeholders in the industry and how to take forward the compliance of law to a larger extent. I think FSA is a good model for other departments in the government to actually follow, because earlier the chefs used to dread FSA coming into the hotels, but it's not anymore because they've been successfully working with the chefs. They're successfully working with people who are involved in the food industry, and people have been educated across. I think FSA is doing a commendable job, especially during the COVID. Real congratulations to them. Yes, I wish the food law is also implemented in a dynamic manner the way other laws have been implemented. So couple of points to I think we're running short of time. So a couple of quick points which I wanted to put also is how the local chefs can help. I think Sneh has given a good example of few chefs, how they have involved in your farm and how they are making the menus. Can you briefly talk a couple of points, how the other chefs who are listening to this panel discussion can adopt with a local farmer in their region?
Definitely, Chef Baskaran. First of all, my request to all the chefs, don't tell your...
Madam, you'll have to be a little more louder, huh?
Yeah. So, you know, like my partner chefs, they never tell me what to supply. They ask me what is growing on my farm right now. I provide them list, and then they take this as a responsibility to evolve some dishes.
So they are flexible. You are saying they are flexible.
Yes, they are flexible. They keep changing their menu.
So that's a key point for the chefs, being flexible.
Right. And second thing, they don't tell me that, okay, we need tomatoes, we need cucumber, we need capsicum and all. I tell them that I have this in abundance on my farm. So this is really from farm to table, not like from table to farm. So one thing. Second thing, they give me the liberty to introduce very, very regional crops, and they take, you know, I share the local recipes with them. They are open to cook those dishes in a very local way, and of course they do, you know, they change the recipes according to their menus and all, but they take input from me, about the local ways we are cooking. And at the same time, they ask the profile of these things. Like we have, you know, in Rajasthan, when we talk about farmer food, like when we talk about Rajasthani food, normally it is talked about Marwari food or Rajput food. Nobody talks about farming community food. So when I talk to chefs, farmers in Rajasthan are by and large, they are vegetarian and they eat a lot of forage food. So when I share those forage food tips with farm chefs, and when I tell them that how these weeds are helping us, like Harpal sir was talking about bathua. We have so many weeds like this which we eat, the farming community eat in Rajasthan, and chefs are open to introduce them in their menus.
So you were saying, madam, that there are a lot more, because the chefs are always looking for innovation, something new which they can offer to the customers, so they can actually adopt from the local companies and bring it to the restaurants and the hotels. That's a very good thought for the chefs, that how they can work with the local farmers, how they can adopt the local farming communities or the villages, what items they're making in their homes or in their communities, try and recreate the recipes in their hotels or restaurants, and then there you go, you have something new to offer to the city folks. Yeah, I fully agree there. And at
the same time, they highlight that how these the local how this local crop can help in building the immunity or improving the health. They share that with their customers.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. More and more questions are coming across, but we'll try to answer them offline. But it's been a very engaging panel. Over to you, Dr. Chef Soundararajan.
Thank you, Bhaskar. Thank you. Thank you, panel of Chefs Vijaya Baskaran, Mr. Harpal Singh Ji, and Dr. Joshita, Ms. Sneh Yadav. I think FSSI has done a phenomenal job in creating net profile and a model to involve the farmer, doctor, nutrition, dietitian, chef, so that businesses can be protected during the COVID, and they have done a lot of work during the COVID. Thank you very much. And that is one message. The another message is, give me 100 crops, I can create 1 million dishes. I think 100 crops are more than enough to create millions of dishes. That is definitely, maybe much more than that. And that's a message from this panel is regenerate farming. Not only sustainability, but enhance and increases resources if you regenerate. I think that's a very good message. Okay. See, the next discussion of panel, there is supposed to harvest wastage of 90,000 crores of crops in India. That is data given by the agency. So how do we control this? Before COVID, there were 4.1 lakh restaurants in India, and if not there is a COVID, there would have been 5.1 lakh restaurants in India. But COVID has stopped several restaurants and several businesses. But yes, who said there may never be a silver bullet for COVID-19? But let us see what are the answers this panel can give us to take the challenges of COVID after COVID-19. We present you the panel, Chef Radhika Khandelwal, chef and owner of Radis Hospitality. And she has also done several zero waste and biodiversity programs, and she also follows local, sustainable and seasonal cooking. And then we have Mr. Harpal Singh, who is the professional turned entrepreneur, and he is also in the trustee of the National Restaurant Association, and he has won the Entrepreneurial Award in Ticon 2014 and Entrepreneur India 2015 award in F&B Service and Elite Entrepreneur Award in 2018. And he has undergone training in broad beer technology at Micromatic Institute of Florida, USA. And we have Mr. Jaspal Sabharwal, who tests, analyzes our sensory buds. And he has worked with about 150 food brands. And prior to committing himself in Tag Taste, he was also a partner at Everstone Capital. And he has also worked and he has also had the positions of leadership positions in leading organizations like Coke, and he holds a master's degree in management from McGill University and diploma in practicing management from INSEAD, France, Mr. Jaspal Sabharwal. And way forward post-COVID, we present you the panel of Chef Radhika Khandelwal, Mr. Harpal Singh, Mr. Jaspal Singh. You have 20 minutes to discuss, and probably you can leave 5 minutes for question and answers and 5 minutes for the turnover. Over to Radhika Khandelwal.
Chef Soundararajan, Chef Radhika, I don't think he's on. I'm not sure.
Chef Radhika Khandelwal, she's not there.
I think, Chef, the time for our panel was 4:30. So maybe there is some confusion with.
Yeah, I think the cooking demonstration with Chef Gayatri maybe is first.
Yeah, okay. Shall we? I'm sorry about it.
No. So if you want, Rahul and I can share.
I think we can wait for it, and
I think Chef Gayatri, Chef Soundararajan, I think Chef Gayatri is online.
Oh, so she will take it over, Chef Gayatri.
No, I think her program was next.
Yeah, let's go to Chef Gayatri. I will show her video.
Let's go to Chef Gayatri. So
yeah.
You can play her. I think you have a video of Chef Gayatri, so you can play.
Yeah. Okay, we have now Chef Gayatri. Let us take on this program. Chef Gayatri is a chef by profession, and she is also a food educator, and she has done a lot of cooking for the kids and masterclass and also for the kitchen garden. So let us see what Chef Gayatri is going to say.
Okay, good evening. Namaste from India, everybody. Thank you, Chef Soundararajan, for introducing me. I am Chef Gayatri Peshwari, and I am saying hello all the way from Amritsar in Punjab in the north of India. I am chef educator, and I run a company called Gayatri's Gourmet. I conduct farm to fork food education programs.
Chef Gayatri, please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Chef Soundararajan. Well, I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you to the Chefs Manifesto, Paul Newnham, Chef Manjit, Gill. You've all been fabulous. I am Chef Gayatri Peshwari, and I am here all the way from Amritsar in Punjab in the north of India. Today, I'm actually going to be cooking 2 iconic Punjabi recipes. But before I introduce those, I want you to have a look at a little video where I actually collected ingredients for today's recipes. And then I will probably come back to my demonstration. Chef Soundararajan, if you could please play the video.
Okay, I think Chef Soundararajan is trying to play the video, Chef Gayatri. Meanwhile, we'll keep you engaged. So what are you planning to cook today?
Okay, so let me give you a little tour of where I'm at. To just change the camera. So this is my setup, and I'm right now in my little backyard. And I just wanted to show you around, if I may. We have a little moringa tree right here, and I'm going to show you a guava tree, quinoas, very famous in Amritsar, and some curry leaves right here. We also have lemons growing. So it's a small little space, but we try to grow as much as we possibly could. And this is our little setup. I can even start with the demo if you need time to play the video.
Yeah, 1 minute. Let's come back to Soundararajan. But I'm very happy that you have a moringa tree there. That's a crop of the future, isn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it hardly needs any maintenance. We don't have to do anything for it. It takes care of itself.
Yeah, I think world is discovering moringa now. So it's something new. So let's wait for Dr. Chef Soundararajan to play the video. Chef Soundararajan, video is not playing.
Yeah, video is not.
Video is not playing. So what we'll do is we'll tell Chef Gayatri to go ahead with the video so we can play the video.
All the way from Amritsar in Punjab in India. Hello, Chefs Manifesto. I'm Gayatri Peshwari.
Can you see the video?
No, not playing, not playing.
In India, I am in a local
Chef, you need to change the screen. You need to share a different screen.
Okay, just 1 minute.
So I think you're sharing. I think it's playing on your media player, but you need to.
Yeah, I am in a local, zero budget, organic, natural farm, and I'm going to show you what we're growing here and how we use the produce. I have some lovely carrots. I have some turmeric.
Sorry to interrupt here. It's not playing.
I have potatoes, spinach, and whatnot. Follow me into the farm and let's see how we can cook with it. So if you can just look down at the field has a lot of mulch in it. So what's mulch? Mulch is not just leftover leaves from the entire field. It's also jute bags, carton bags. It's zero waste, zero budget at its absolute best. So if you can see the beautiful yellow hues of the haldi, it looks like ginger really, but then once you wash it and you smell it, it is epic. If you take the camera up above, you will see poplar trees. Right now, we are heading into spring, so the trees have shed and all.
The video is not playing.
Hi, Chef. I think it's playing on your player, but the screen is maybe in presentation mode, and so you've got a different screen showing. So maybe you just need to minimize the screen and drag it onto or do share screen now and just select the media player, because we were seeing your Finder.
Or Dr. Paul, I have a suggestion. Dr. Chef Soundararajan, we have a suggestion. Let Chef Gayatri go ahead with the cooking.
Yes.
So maybe we can play it a little later. So meanwhile, sort it out. What do Chef Gayatri? I think it's interesting. Please go ahead. I would also request the organizers to pin Chef Gayatri's video. They can pin the Chef Gayatri's video so that everybody can see. I think the organizing team can do it. Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to start my demo. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to be demonstrating iconic Punjabi recipes. My recipes are generally very simple, and many of them focus on regional food because I'm from Amritsar in Punjab, and I love for everyone to know about the food of my region. I work as chef educator in collaboration with schools. My objective, the objective of my work really is to empower school children to make wise food choices. So how do we do that? We actually have farm tours, we establish kitchens in schools, and we get kids to volunteer with farmers in actual zero budget natural farms to actually understand the magnitude of farming, to understand what it takes to grow local seasonal food. So whatever I have on the table today has been procured from a local zero budget farm, which is known as the Pingalwara Natural Farm. Pingalwara is a society in Punjab, which is really, really famous, and they do a lot of charity work for underprivileged children. So the farm from where I have procured today's ingredients is an organic natural farm that grows produce only for the children of Pingalwara. So just before I start, I have some turnip shalgam here. The video would have shown you all of this, but maybe we can say that later, or I'll just put it on my Instagram also. We have some carrots, some cauliflower, some mungra, which is radish. So the produce that we have is really simple, and so much of it is not supermarket level food. It's what supermarkets would ideally discard, but it's absolutely great to eat. So for the carrots, we've not really peeled them or grated them. We just wash them very nicely to remove all the dust and brine. And that's really it. So the first recipe that I'm going to start with is a gobi, gajar, and shalgam ka achar. In essence, it is a mixed vegetable pickle that requires just common sense. So what I have over here is cauliflower. So when we use cauliflower, we use all of it. So in this recipe, I'm using the florets, but the dantal or the stalk of the cauliflower is great for making soups and stocks and even purees. And also the leaves are edible too. So the leaves can be used in wraps or even in pickles. I have some carrots here. In terms of measurements, I've already messaged them. So they will be up on Chefs Manifesto and on my Instagram as well. I have some turnips, which is shalgam in Punjabi. And I have some mungra. This is a Punjabi favorite. And I know of very few achars that wouldn't use a mungra. And this is the season for them. So there we are. So just pop everything together in what this is called a parat. And I'm just mixing everything. To this, I'm adding some peas, which is matar, and a little bit of garlic. Okay, so in essence, you can use, what we've really done here is we've dried these veggies overnight over just like a kitchen towel so that, the excess moisture goes away. Additional moisture will actually sort of reduce the shelf life of the pickle. Therefore, we just don't want a lot of moisture in it. To this, I'm adding some seasonings, some spices, basic spices, Kashmiri degi mirch, Kashmiri red chili, haldi, which is turmeric, and salt. Then I'm adding some roasted and ground rye, which is mustard seeds. So mustard grows prolifically in Punjab, and what's a great Punjabi recipe without mustard? And then here I have some fenugreek seeds and fennel seeds, which is methi dana and saunf, roasted and mixed together and powdered. So we're going to be adding these in terms of spices. The vessels that I'm using are all vintage. These are traditional Punjabi tamba vessels made with alloy, mostly copper, very, very good to eat your food in. Then I'm going to be adding some cold pressed local mustard oil, sarson ka tel. Mustard grows in Punjab. It's not indigenous to Punjab, but sarson ka saag and makki ki roti is essentially Punjabi. So there you are. Drench it in mustard oil. This helps preserve it. And then what I'm going to do is just give it a little mix. Use your hands for this. Wear gloves to maintain optimum hygiene, and ensure that you nicely rub your veggies with the spice mix and the oil. This needs no cooking whatsoever. So we're actually going to be putting this in the sun for 2 weeks, and it's really the sunlight that cooks the vegetables. Pickles essentially are about 4,000 years old, and there are records of pickled cucumber in India about 4,000 years ago. The ideal comfort food, the ideal go-to meal, great traveler's food also. Lasts you a really long time, uses hardly any energy. So there you are, mixed everything nicely. You would think that there's less oil, but trust me, once the vegetables start to shrink as they cook up in the sun, they will start to shrink a little bit and release the oil back into the pickle. So I'm going to show you what a ready pickle also looks like. But once this is done, this is essentially ready, okay? But not edible yet. I'm going to take a martaban. So this vessel over here is called the martaban. It comes with a lid like this. And this is a traditional grandmother's vessel. In India, what it would be used for chutneys and pickles. And you would just tightly pack the pickle into the martaban. All of the utensils that I've used are really my inheritance, and they've been passed down from my great grandmother to my mother and now to me. So just press it down as you go, tuck it in nicely. And there you are. So essentially, this now needs the sunlight for 2 weeks. You can keep checking it every 2 weeks. And what you will also need to do is to stir it every now and then to make sure that, you know, the veggies are nicely mixed. And that's basically it. We're just going to clean the sides. Cover it, and this goes into the sun. Now, what a ready pickle ideally looks like is this. In here, we also added some leaves, which are shalgam leaves, turnip leaves. And this is what a ready pickle looks like. You will see that it releases a little more oil, but that's because the veggies have shrunk and become soft. So you want this oil. It's actually even great for marinating your meat, the chicken or mutton or pork. Works really, really well. So that's what we do with the leftover oil from once DHR is finished. Okay, so yeah, is it visible? Am I audible?
Yeah, that's great. wish we were on a live cooking demo so we could get a taste of it, no?
Oh, you're very, very
smell, it looks amazing.
Yeah, that's a great.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now moving on to my next pickle, very, very quickly, because I know we're pressed on time.
Would you like to try the video now?
Sure, I'll wait.
You can start managing your prep mise en place. In the meantime, we can play the video.
Okay, no problem.
Hello, Chefs Manifesto. I'm Gayatri Peshwari, and I'm reporting to you all the way from Amritsar in Punjab in India. I am in a local, zero-budget, organic, natural farm, and I'm going to show you what we're growing here and how we use the produce. I have some lovely carrots, I have some turmeric, I have some turnips, I have potatoes, spinach, and whatnot. Follow me into the farm, and let's see how we can cook with it. So if you can just look down at the field has a lot of mulch in it. So what's mulch? Mulch is not just leftover leaves from the entire field. It's also jute bags, carton bags. It's zero waste, zero budget at its absolute best. So if you can see the beautiful yellow hues of the haldi, it looks like ginger really, but once you wash it and you smell it, it is epic. If you take the camera up above, you will see poplar trees. Right now, we are heading into spring, so the trees have shed and all the leaves, the poplar leaves have come into the field. That helps add additional nitrogen, natural additional nitrogen to the field, and also helps the growth of friendly pests. So right now I'm in the shalgam field, and shalgam are turnips, okay? So over here we have anar, which is pomegranate. Shalgam, we have mooli which is radishes, and we have green apples growing all in the same field. Of course, you see the groove here as well, which helps retain water in the upper section of the field and drains the excess out in the lower section, keeps it moist for longer so that we don't use too much water. Okay, so let me just try to get some shalgam out. So this is shalgam. So let me try to find some mooli as well. So shalgam I already got, and here is, ouch, I broke it, but here's a radish. We like to use the whole vegetable. What would famously be made in Punjabi houses is mooli ki sabzi, which would use the vegetable and the leaves tossed together and spices, and if that vegetable also is left over, we would just make a paratha out of it or a little wrap. Absolutely amazing and so fresh. Okay, so right now I'm also going to be getting some fresh methi. And what's methi? Methi is fenugreek. So in Punjabi cuisine, we use a lot of this in our parathas. We use a lot of it in our sabzi. So sabzi is like, afternoon, evening vegetables. Okay, so I'm in the field which is just being cleaned up, and they're adding some manure, and they're going to be running a tractor through it. One of the problems that we find when you run a tractor through the field is obviously, while it may remove the weeds and it may clean the soil, but there is definitely a depletion of carbon from the soil when you run a tractor. For this, we don't yet have a solution. What I really want to show you are the birds right behind me. These are, in Punjabi, they're known as baglas, but they're, to me, I think they're a variety of crane. So they're pecking into the soil and they're looking for food, and what they're eating are these particular pests that we don't need in the soil. So they're literally helping us clean the field. It's amazing how nature supports mankind. So in this field, what's going to be sowed again? They're going to be sowing sugarcane and seasonal crops. While sugarcane is almost a year-long crop, seasonal crops will keep alternating. So they're going to be supporting each other, thereby promoting biodiversity and soil health. Okay, so after that little workout, I just want to talk to you about carrots. These are seasonal crops. And while Instagram is big on carrot leaf pesto, what we really have been doing since time immemorial is actually use carrot leaves as fodder for animals. Also, something very interesting I want to talk to you about are the weeds that grow within the carrots. So these are like wild weeds. We're not really sowing any of this, and they're a natural. They help us naturally fix nitrogen in the soil. So these are weeds that are not removed by the farmers because they help preserve the nitrogen content of the soil, thus preserving land health. Okay, so I just dug up some potatoes. Potatoes are root vegetables, as all of us know. Potato leaves, not very edible, but they're used for mulching right in the field. So if they're a waste from the crop, the farmer pops them back into the field to help restore moisture and nitrogen. So this is the garlic field, lasun in Punjabi, garlic in English. And as you can see, it's been mulched with waste leaves. I'm just going to try to pick a bulb. These are not very mature yet, so maybe we get like a baby garlic. But let me see if I can just try to get a bulb out. Okay, yeah, so they are still babies. But what we would do is actually use the entire bulb of garlic and use the leaves as well. So they have a lot of flavor. You can use them as garnishes, you can use them in soups and stocks. Very, very flavorsome. Okay, so now I'm in another field in the same farm, and what we have here is gobi, which is cauliflower. We have potatoes and we have spinach, and on the other side we have some broccoli, all of this growing in alternating rows. So let me just try to get out some gobi for you. Gobi is cauliflower, and so what we like to do with cauliflower is actually use the whole floret, and we use the dantal. The stalk of it is called dantal in Punjabi, and we use it for stalks. We also puree it and we make like a little mash out of it. The leaves as well are used in our parathas. So the entire vegetable is edible and it is absolutely yum. Okay, so now it's time to get some palak. Palak is spinach in Punjabi, and I'm going to show you some of its beautiful, beautiful fragrant leaves. So, I mean, I would actually use them just the way they are in a salad, or make a little wrap out of them, or maybe like make a palak paneer, which is like an authentically Punjabi dish. Absolutely love it. So now I'm in the Gaushala. The Gaushala is the cow shed, and I'm with the calves. So these are like really, really young babies. Let me try and show you the bigger cows. Well, if looks could talk, I think the cow's eyes would say it all. They are petrified with my presence. Who is this stranger invading our privacy? Well, that is me. I've been so curious to actually see the cow shed. The farm literally depends on the cow shed. The cow is an immensely important animal at the farm. They use cow dung to irrigate the fields. They use cow urine. Cow itself is an animal that is much more valuable when it's alive, because it constantly feeds the farm, and of course the farm in turn feeds fodder to the cow. So it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Am I visible? Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
You are audible. Please go ahead.
All right. So thank you for playing that video. And now I'm going to be demonstrating my second recipe, which is a narangi ka achar. So narangi in English would be tangerines. Sometimes you might call them kumquats, but tangerines essentially. They grow in my garden. I will be showing you the tree once my demo is over. So I have my tangerines just split into half with seeds removed, and I'm just going to pop them into a bowl. This is a really simple pickle, and while this may be very traditionally Punjabi, I can draw huge parallels in the process with the typical Moroccan pickled limes. So to this, I'm going to be adding some spices, stick of cinnamon, some cloves, black pepper if you would like, and then really salt and sugar. And that is it. And then you kind of have to muddle these out a little bit, release some of their juices. But we're going to be using the entire tangerine. And since like we have a little tree, it yields a lot of tangerine. So, and these are really bitter. So you can't just have the fruit on its own, or just, sometimes we like to squash it, or sometimes we make a jam out of it, but we realize that it uses much more sugar than one would like to consume. So for me, this pickle consumes lesser sugar, and it holds and this pickle holds for like really long. So I have a ready pickle from 2 years ago. And this is one I did just this morning. So you can see like a huge variation of color. And well, the sun cooks this as well. So this does not need to go on a hob. All you do is tightly pack it and keep pressing as you pack. The odd little pit in it is not going to kill anyone, no problem. You could add more spices or less spices, maybe even some black pepper or red chili if you like. And that's basically it. This works beautifully on a cheese platter. If you add just a little bit in a dirty martini, it just changes the flavor. Also, as an Indian pickle, of course, works very, very nicely. If you just chop some in a salad, it's beautiful. The juices that this pickle really releases makes an ideal salad dressing. So it's really ubiquitous to use this in a lot of places. Top it with a little bit of that juice. And that's essentially it. Super easy recipe. It's one of the recipes that I've done for my children on masterclass. So this has been even made by 5-year-olds, tangerine pickle, because a lot of us grow tangerines in our gardens. And that's kind of how I like my recipes. This is like the tangerine pickle, essentially made by a 5-year-old. There you are. So this is how it would go in the sun for about 2 weeks. It would keep maturing. This pickle is 2 years old. And that's what it looks like. You can use this juice. You can use this liquid in your salads, in your cocktails, and so on. And that's what your tangerines are going to look like. About 2 years. You have to be really hygienic with pickles, so like no double dipping. Spoon will have to clean and dry. It's sweet, it's tangy, and it's very, very addictive, all at the same time. Before I wrap up though, I forgot to mention my turnip leaves. This was added in the previous pickle. So we just add them as it is in the pickle. We don't waste the leaves. And what the farmer really wanted me to stress upon was this particular turnip. It's one of the star turnips, which weighs almost 2 kilos. Ideally, you would get turnips this size, from his farm, but this is one of his first turns that went this big. And he insisted that I show it to all of you. He was really proud of it. So that really is my demo. I look forward to your questions. And before I sign out, I'm going to be showing you the tangerine tree as well. I think I've lost network, or am I visible?
You're very visible.
You're visible and audible.
All right. So it's just going to take me a second to get to the tree.
Hello.
So this is the other front yard, and here is what the tree looks like. So this is how tangerine grows, and we have so many of them. So now you can only imagine that we have like jars and jars of tangerine pixels going out to family and friends. We use them very, very often. So yeah, that was my demo. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope you make these recipes and share pictures with us.
You are through, Chef Gayatri?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Chef Gayatri. We had a great time. Very, very interesting recipes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have the panel now, Chef Radhika Khandelwal of Radish Hospitality and Mr. Harpal Singh of the owner and founder of Bear Cafe, and Mr. Jaspal Sabharwal Singh of Tactist. Over to Chef Radhika Khandelwal.
Thank you, Doctor. Are both my panelists here?
Hi, Radhika. Yeah, Radhika, hi.
Hi,
Mr. Harpal Singh and Mr. Sabharwal, you have 20 minutes for discussion, then maybe 5 minutes for question and answer session, and you can also wrap in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. So let's just start with a small introduction of Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh is a professional turned entrepreneur. He's the founder and CEO of the Beer Cafe, which is India's favorite beer chain. With over 35 locations in such a short span of time, it's already become the largest, fastest, and most awarded alcobev service brand in India. The first beer cafes, if I'm not wrong, started pouring in Gurgaon in 2012. And today it's spreading liquid sunshine to across 16 cities. Rahul is also the winner of the Entrepreneur Award in 2014 and holds the position of a trustee at the NRAI. And we will be asking him a lot of questions about that today as well. You're married to a fashion designer with a 20-year-old son and a gizmo freak, single malt collector, and an avid biker. So we will start with you, Mr. Singh. You run a very successful chain of restaurants. Can you tell us a little bit about the sustainable practices that you follow and how difficult has it been to replicate those over cities? I'm sure that must have been very, very challenging, especially being somewhat of a QSR model.
Yeah. Good afternoon to all. Thank you, Chef. And there are two Mr. Singhs in this panel, me as well as Jaspal. So, you know,
I refer to him as Mr. Sabharwal, but yeah.
Oh, good. That makes sense. Okay. So sustainability has always been our, let's say, cornerstones since we started the first outlets. I said, once I build an outlet, I will make sure that everything goes around sustainability. So it starts with what we put into the outlets. That's one part to it. And then obviously how we run the outlet, and that gets replicated otherwise. And I'll give you the reason how we do this. To start with electricity, it's one of the highest consumed utility when it comes to operations like us, which are operational almost 14 hours in a day. And electricity in India is expensive, as you know, compared to the way our country is. Electricity is definitely expensive. And what we've been able to do with that is only use LEDs, for example, only use electro cut-off thermostats in our pizza machines and other machines. We use Merry Chefs, which are fast impingement-based technology, which cooks food much quicker. So it's like you rightly said, it's a QSR-based model, and we do that. For our beer chilling, we use glycol, which is a natural product. It's a mix of water and glycerin, and it's used to cool. We don't use any refrigerant, which is which creates ozones and stuff. So everything goes into it. We use recycled wood to make our furniture. They all come from Jodhpur, which is all using old wood. So a lot has been done there. Apart from that, when it comes to running in operations, beer in itself has used a lot of water in any case. Beer as a product is what we sell a lot. Beer is food for us, as it says. But when it comes to sustainability in the kitchen, recycling our oil, we give it to for biodiesel. We do that. From our perspective, we also use a lot of we use something called use your own glass. So people, when we have draft beers, people use the mugs again and again. So that you don't have to clean the glass again, because the customer is using the same glass, which allows us to save on water and detergents. So it goes on. There's a huge list that takes care of the SOP, and that's replicated everywhere. It is everybody has to follow it as and when we open. So even if you are in 100 cities, the rule book would be followed, and then there are counter checks. We have a training department which does that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Food and technology is actually the way forward for sustainability, is what I hear. Let's move on to Mr. Sabharwal. Mr. Sabharwal, are you here?
Yeah, I'm very much here.
Okay. Let's start with a small introduction of you. You are the co-founder of Tag Taste, which is the world's first online sensory analytic and consumer insight platform. You founded Tag Taste in 2016, and now you serve over 150 brands in India and the States. Tag Taste is widely respected for the work that you've been doing for students and farm communities. Prior to committing yourself to Tag Taste, you were a partner at Everstone Capital, and you were focused on advising the leadership teams of the firm's consumer-centric companies, whilst also working with the firm's fellow partners. You continue to stay associated with Everstone as senior advisor to the firm, and you have served in key leadership roles in companies like Coca-Cola for close to 10 years. Can I please ask you, firstly, because you do so much pro bono work with farmers, and full respect to you for that, can you please tell us a little bit more about that before we deep dive into the tougher questions for today?
So we don't do deep dive sort of work on the agri side, but once farmer is ready with the produce, what we try to do is we provide our farming community with access to Horeca. We are essentially a B2B platform. The only way consumer comes.
Mr. Sabharwal, I'm sorry about it. Your face is not visible. Can you adjust your video? Thank you very much. Sorry about.
No problem. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. So the only way consumers come into our platform is through the route of tasters. So what we do for farmers is when a produce is brought to our sort of platform, we do the necessary sensory check, and our sensory check is very, very detailed. And that data is kind of shared with the prospective customers in the Horeca sort of segment. Based on that data, the decision makers like chefs and purchase community are able to take a decision. The last thing that we did in a very big way, we are a startup, so we've been kind of doing litsy bitsy experiments here and there. But one big thing that we did in collaboration with IFCA was to help the farmers of North Karnataka. As we all know that that part of India has been drought affected for the past more than 20 years. So they managed to grow teff, which is an African grain. So after 5 years of hard work and in active collaboration with CFTRI, they managed to grow teff. But once the grain was kind of successfully produced, they didn't know where the market is. So one other thing that we do for produce which is very rare or not widely tested, so we work with the chef community to kind of come up with the suitable use cases and then take it to the market. So in this particular case, Lovely Bake Studio, which is one of India's largest eggless baking companies, they are launching energy bar next month using teff as the main ingredient. So primarily speaking, sensory support, which kind of differentiates the product. Second is access to the decision making community. These are the two things we do for the farmers.
That is amazing. That is so heartening to know, because um, I think chefs and farmers both are in the front line as far as sustainability is also concerned. And I think, if I'm not wrong, teff is one of the future 50 foods as well. Over to you, Mr. Singh. Let's discuss a little bit about the year that has been and the response which the NRAI actually expected from the government, and how you guys negotiated terms for restaurants and the hospitality industry in large with the government. Mr. Rahul Singh?
So I think it's everybody knows that hospitality, aviation, entertainment, travel was one of the worst hit sectors, and there's no doubt about it. The hospitality got shut completely during the lockdown. We did have essential services being allowed by the government, which means that the kitchens which were delivering were allowed in those 40 days, but there was a lot of commotion. When the national lockdown happened on 25th of March, it was given a 4-hour notice for people to leave. And we have a lot of marginal workers and staff that works in our industry. So they were really left to fend for themselves. You've seen the stories of people walking back to their hometowns and stuff. So it was completely, I would say, mismanaged, which left a lot for the industry in terms of asking the government. So once we got into parleys with the center, we also met the finance minister. This happened over a video call. The trustees of NRAI had a half-an-hour conversation with her. This in the month of May. We detailed all that was expected, during the stimulus packages they were giving or they were providing for. And we discussed about, what our industry has gone through. And we said, if cannot be given on, if you can't give money doles, then at least give us reforms, because when you do not have what we've seen in the UK and the US, how the hospitality industry was well treated, we were expecting some to come to us, but it didn't happen. We said, okay, if you cannot give us financial sustainability, at least give us reforms. And, this is one time when we're all going to spring back, and that time our reform should be in place. Some things were taken in, but, I would say we were left high and dry in our own way. Today, as we speak, a couple of things that's happened for our industry was, one, yes, they allowed us to operate our restaurants on 8th of June, which is when restaurants were allowed for dining in. So we did have a gap for that. After that, they allowed alcohol services on 1st of September, which then, state by state, they start taking it. I think one big takeaway was that, so the center was deciding on how the unlock would happen. And, but I think it was all down to the wire, where every state and every district or every officer, they were probably not well coordinated. And what we saw was a lot of commotion, and that happens even today. We see a lot of commotion in terms of orders. Somebody puts one order, the other one follows another order, and it becomes, because we are at the last mile of it, we're at the last point, and everybody comes and knocks at our doors, and gives a lot of friction. But a couple of things, like I said, the government provided was that a lot of our industry comes under, companies come under MSME, and the government did give us, it's again a loan over loan, but it gave us some liquidity. We were allowed to get moratorium on loans, and we could restructure a loan. So that's on the financial side. On the labor side, recently, on the staffing side, in the October month, we were allowed to rehire anybody at where the PF from the employee and the employer for the next 2 years would be given by the government. That's a good, I would say it's not a stimulus, but it still allows us to, save on expenses. Apart from that, really nothing has happened.
I think one more thing, the extension on the excise license was something which really saved us.
Yeah. So that's something that's happened on the state level. So this is the center side. As you know that liquor is a state subject in India. So once we finished with the center, we moved into the states. And every chapter, we have got now 7 or 8 chapters, and every chapter has been actively involved. Chapter in Chandigarh doing the bid, Gurgaon chapter, Delhi, chapter in Noida handling UP, Maharashtra, in Mumbai, and Bangalore in Karnataka. And except for Karnataka, which actually didn't give us a relief, and like you rightly said, Chef, Maharashtra was kind enough. They took the license fee only in December for a period. Delhi was kind enough to actually give us the extension where we'd already paid the license fee, so this amortized it. Haryana was kind enough. They only charged us for the quarter we were open in. But what's going to happen? And the excise rules, or let's say the excise policy is fiscal in nature. So 1st of April, you will see the policy being implemented for the next fiscal. It's my we're really I'll tell you, the excise is a state subject, and being a state subject, all the states have lost a lot of revenues. In fact, they're borrowing money for the GST compensation that they deserve, and they're going to go after liquor in a big way. It is the only let's say whipping thing that they have in their hands, and they're definitely going to really take out the revenues. So the states' lost revenues are going to come from liquor. I feel that the fees which is going for the restaurants are going to really increase. I've seen the Delhi recommendation, which is going to go into policy. It's almost doubling or tripling the existing fees for the license. So COVID's not yet over, but it's going to be pretty crazy. And we're obviously hammering that in terms of we're doing a lot of advocacy. We are meeting with the state governments, but the prices will go up. One thing we've seen is that if the prices go up, taxes don't go up. It's a very false notion that, and it happened with Delhi. I'll give you an example. Delhi for about 1 week, about 10 days, provided a 70% COVID cess. Thinking that okay, I will be able to sell beer or spirits and get 70%. They had to roll it back. So I think they don't like the market forces are there. I think revenue harnessing should happen with a bigger pool, not by going after the same amount of people. It never gives you more. So I think we will see where it goes. But as we stand today, COVID's not yet over. We've seen the vaccines roll out. We've seen exuberance. We've seen the recovery happening. But we're still cautious. We still have the guidelines which are being governed. We still have 50% occupancy. We still have to follow certain mini curfews, like Punjab, for that matter, is still on a mini curfew. It closes at 9 in the night. Similarly, Mumbai closes at 10 in the night. Whereas the state have been explained that they cannot have a mini curfew. The center under the MHA guidelines is very clear that you cannot have another curfew, while the center has said it's open to all now. But everybody's doing what they feel like doing from their own perspective. We just had a chicken scare 3 days back where, the 2 municipalities just decided that chicken's going to be bad. And without testing, without science, without anything, for 24 hours, we were left without chicken in Delhi. So it's knee-jerk. It's terrible, as far as I'm concerned. But like I said, we have to fight our own, and that's what we do as an association.
Thank you so much for that, because you are also representing small businesses like my own. So thank you so much for that. Over to Mr. Sabharwal. My question to you is, what are the recovery trends that you have noticed in various F&B formats in terms of fine dining, casual dining, pubs, and fast foods?
Yeah. So
also a sub question to that. Do you think that we as a community, we as an industry should be prepared for God's acts or pandemics such as this one in the future, and how?
Yeah, sure. So I'll take on the first one to share with you some numbers. And I'm sure Rahul and NRAI do a good job in terms of tracking and, extending hand of help. So as per our estimate, and we track data on a real-time basis, 38% casual dining restaurants are like shut, right, over the past 8 to 10 months. And if you look at the recovery format-wise, one category of formats, QSRs of global brands, have shown the best recovery so far, like all your Burger Kings and McDonald's, KFC, etc., including Domino's. So they are at 72% recovery. So I'm not quoting year-to-date number. I'm quoting the last 3 months kind of prevailing trends, because with every month passing, the recovery is getting better. So there is no point in looking at kickoff of COVID to date kind of trends. So the trends that I am sharing with you are essentially October to December. Casual dining is very badly hurt. It's at 42% recovery after massive shutdowns. Pubs, because of various legislative issues, social distancing, closed room environments are also sub 40% recovery. Indian QSRs, right? The street eateries, sweet shops like Haldirams and Bikanerwala, the restaurant side is at around 65% recovery, but mithai has taken a massive hit, right? So if you look at the mithai trends, from outside we look at a wide array of sweets, but the number one item in branded mithai segment is motichur laddu. So for the benefit of expatriates who are on this call, motichur laddu is basically a sphere kind of sweet item made up of gram flour, some fats, and sugar. Now, what has happened to laddus? So 38% is like your branded mithais laddus, and out of that, 42% of the total annual sales comes on Tuesdays, right? Because of people worshipping Lord Hanuman, right? So this social restrictions, and laddu has very 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 important element to it. Laddu in India signifies equality. So whether you are a billionaire or a worker at the bottom of the economic pyramid, we all celebrate our sweet little moments with the laddus, right? So when you have such a massive hit to our day-to-day life that cripples a very simple normal industry like mithais. So mithais are at 45% recovery minus the Diwali period, which was around 62% recovery across India. What are we left with? Fine dining. So fine dining, because of lack of mobility, massive drop, as Rahul rightly pointed out about the aviation segment. So our estimate of fine dining recovery, which is primarily in India, is housed inside 5-star, 7-star hotels, is sub 30%, right? In terms of trends that we are seeing, recovery, so equality, which was kind of a very, very important factor, in terms of your rate of success. As I said, restaurant industry in India has always been terminal, even before COVID. So just to share with you statistics, only 1.7% restaurant operators between 2017 and 2020, pre-COVID, ever paid tax, income tax, right? Let's say once in 3 years, just 1.7%. So it's a tough industry, very high rentals, lot of hard work, but the output has been kind of very, very dismal. So we give a lot of happiness to people, but in terms of economic returns, this has always been a struggling industry. So where are we headed towards? If you analyze the data, right, you would see that normal was always boring for our young entrepreneurs. So, motichur laddu. So there are a lot of startups getting into the fancier side of mithai, but no one looks at, getting into laddu. So we see that, and, this point was very well highlighted by Sneh and Mr. Garewal, and then excellent video from Amritsar. So the upcoming trends indicate that the future of like economic success, it's one thing to open a restaurant and not making money, but what's the point of that, right? So if you want to be economically viable, so there are three things emerging that we see holding out on the ground very, very well. One is equality. Try to do food which kind of has mass appeal, right? Second, nature has stepped in. So, before COVID, we were in a sort of, sensory poverty, right? We were like so fixated with the appearance and, very, very superficial aspects of food that we ignored the vital aspects. Third one is nutrition, right? So equality, nature, and nutrition. This is the triangle which is kind of pointing to economic success. Last point is that, period between 2010 and 2020, we were over fixated, over focused on millennials, right? And millennials as a demographic sort of segment is the worst hit because of loss of jobs, across various business segments. So that epicenter has shifted from millennials to the lady of the house, the family. All these things which we took for granted. So whether those are like simple sensory pleasures, things like eating seasonal, things like provenance, things like community supported agriculture, or ventures like home bakers, home chefs, are kind of gaining importance. To conclude, I'll share a data point that all of us experienced in our sort of respective lives. Home bakers, pre-COVID to post-COVID, there has been an increase of 4.5 times in their business. So an average home baker today is like fully booked from within the confines of their four-wall kitchen. They bake 3.7 cakes every day, and the good ones you have to like book 3 days in advance. So it's nice to see the community stepping up.
I am really glad you brought this up because my next question is to Mr. Singh about home kitchens and cloud kitchens and delivery trends. Um, so, Mr. Singh, as delivery trends and cloud kitchens and home kitchens continue to rise, and so do pandemics and all sorts of other diseases, do you suppose that the government should start regulating licenses, especially for home kitchens and cloud kitchens, keeping hygiene and sustainability in mind? Because we are consuming so much at this point of time, and yes, during the pandemic we did become a little bit mindful. I could see it across the board, but now we're going back to that same trend of just consumption. So should there be some sort of license, some sort of training, some sort of course, or food health and safety plus sustainability sort of course, which we can incorporate and push this home chef community forward?
Well said, because this became a hot topic also. But first, I have to congratulate Jaspalji. I just love this. I love his stats. It's numbers that really excites me, and Jaspalji's been really kind enough to give them, to this audience today. So thank you so much, sir. Coming on to the food safety angle, and we've been attending a lot of FSSAI, and I can tell you the FSSAI is one of the regulators in India which has been very forthcoming in suggestions, recommendations, and getting things together. It's really a new world out there in terms of perpetual licenses. You just have to pay renewal fees. Nobody will come and check you, and if there is a vigilance or a complaint, then it will happen. So it's done on self assessment. It's done on self affidavit, which has never ever happened. So it's very faceless. Everything is online, and they're really running a great regulator as far as it's concerned. Now, the way FSSAI works, the current regime says that, so overall in India, there are 2.5 million restaurants. So there are 2.5 million restaurants. In lakhs, it comes to 25 lakh restaurants, out of which 65 are unorganized. So they are the ones who do not have a license or a registration. They don't even have a GST number. So what we did was we triangulated numbers while we were creating a report. We were triangulating the number, what is the size? So we know the size is $60 billion or 4.25 lakh crores. I'm doing both so that we have an international audience, they can get the size of it. But 65% is unorganized. India is one of the larger countries in the world where food is very unorganized. It remains unorganized as a sector, and it's getting more organized. So we predict that in the next 5 years, it'll be a 50-50 share, 50 unorganized to 50 organized. Now, the way organized becomes organized is by formalizing, the way they work. Formalization means they come under the GST regime, they come under, licenses like FSSAI and others. And I think the more ease of doing business you do, the more online and the more faceless that you do, people will come out of the woods and they do it. Now, when it comes to home chefs, people who are sitting at home, I think the fear is not about the hygiene or safety, because they're cooking for their home. They're cooking for people at home. So their safety is probably, at paramount, but they're scared about the system. I know a lot of chefs. So I live in a, community where everybody's cooking. Almost everybody's become a chef. A person like me who's never cooked also cooked in the last 7-8 months. But these home chefs have come out and they're doing a wonderful job. But I think they're scared of the system. If I get discovered, somebody will come and knock my door. Somebody will say, where's the tax? Where is this? Because in order to run a restaurant, you need 170 forms to fill in a year. Just hear me out. 170 returns you have to fill in a year to run one restaurant. Apart from that, if you do a liquor and you're in one state, you're talking about another 50, 60 forms to be filled every year. And this is not just, this is the returns you file. So you go through all that. Nobody wants to go through it. But coming to food safety, there are 2 forms right now. Form A and B, it's very specific. So in India right now, under food business operator, under FSSAI, which is a restaurant or a food vend, there are only 600,000 registrations, out of which 150,000 are licenses and 450,000 are registration. Registration means you pay 100 rupees, which is hardly $1.50. And what you're doing with that is you get a registration where you have to give an affidavit that your sales is below 1.2 million rupees or below 12 lakh rupees. Now, if that is what a home chef does, you go and they get your registration and nobody's going to complain. You'll have an FSI number on your system. But if you're doing more than that, then I think you need to go out and declare, yes, I do more business, because at the end of the day, it's a commercial enterprise. You're not cooking for charity. If it's a commercial enterprise, then you get a license. The license then becomes a little more expensive. You have more paperwork for that, and that's where it becomes. But just like Jaspalji had pointed out, he pointed out about the income tax, which is a direct tax. Just to let you know, only 1.5 lakh restaurants in India, and I would say restaurant means individual restaurant. If let's say Domino's has 1,500, I'm talking about 1,500 different restaurants for that matter. There are only 1.5 or 150,000 restaurants which have a FSI license in this country for a size of this. So this is how informal our industry is in a way, or they've not been able to organize it. And another statistics, let me tell you, is about the central data. So the license is either state or central. The moment you cross 200 million rupees or 20 crore rupees of your revenue, you have to get a central license. You'll be surprised to know this. There are only 170 central licenses under our sector. That's what we're talking about. It's just unbelievably how thin it is. And though it's a huge country, the diversity is great. I think food is in our blood in all matters. But when I look at it as an industry, it's really, really small when it comes to it's completely fragmented, and it needs to get better. And I think that's what's happening right now. There is consolidation happening. Recovery is not that great, as Jaspalji had pointed out. It's not the best, but like we said, we're the more resilient people, and it will happen. Give it some time. We'll be all going out, and we'll be all going back to what it was.
Absolutely.
But who's going to be running the restaurant will be the question. That's the big one there. Yeah.
Yes, hopefully the government also makes this easier for us. I run a small business as well. I know what the paperwork is like. I don't do any of it myself anymore. I just can't. But moving on to Mr. Sabharwal, what are the major changes that you've noticed as far as consumption patterns in bigger corporations are concerned, such as Burger King, McCain, Nestle? Also, a sub question for you again. Do you think that these bigger corporations post the pandemic are starting to make a shift towards sustainable practices? Because that's actually where we will see the bulk of the world change, right?
So I'm closest to the fast food situation since I'm part of Burger King. So I'll share the inside view without any dilution. So global brands, large packaged food companies have been lucky that they had a strong balance sheet. And more than anything else, if people had some amount of capital to steer through these tough times, it helps, right? So SME segment, as Rahul indirectly pointed out, has been on the receiving end. So unlike many other developed countries, we do not have fallback for our SME sort of segment. Now, in terms of trends, delivery, for example, has been extremely well leveraged by global corporations, both on the packaged food side as well as on the fast food side. So pre-pandemic, all the fast food restaurant companies were getting 28% of their business from delivery. Today it's 42%. That's essentially a maths because in-room dining is, or in outlet dining is very low. So the change that we see in terms of food, right? So there has been a conscious effort, which is largely as far as these corporations are concerned, is limited to low sugar, low salt, right? I don't think in the coming year, 2021, 2022, we would see action beyond low sugar, low salt. It will primarily be limited. We definitely don't see any upcoming trend wherein food traceability or processing, for example, and somewhere FSSAI also needs to come in to define what natural food is. Otherwise, people like Sneh, people like Mr. Garewal, and hundreds and thousands of our farmers would struggle because we do not have a standardized definition of what's processed, what's unprocessed. So because of which large corporate...
Radhika, we have 5 more minutes to wrap up.
Sure, sir. So, these things need to be simplified. I'm not sure how much of large corporates are going to kind of steer away from their current model of ultra processed food to I would say normal food. Organic or honest food is, I would say, 7 to 8 years away. But good thing is that the consumer is stepping up, and they are looking at labels, they are looking at transparency, they are definitely concerned about the well-being of their family. COVID, in isolation was a very bad thing to happen to us, but on the flip side, COVID has given all of us a wake-up alarm. Historically, if you see, there are only 3 countries in the world where all the 5 senses are kind of used in every meal. And those cultures are India, Japan, and Thailand. Unfortunately, India lost its way. But COVID, to a very large extent, has kind of, brought that focus back. I think the consumer awareness would play a far important, or consumer demands would play a far important role, pressurizing large corporates, mainly multinationals, to kind of look at life beyond low sugar, low salt.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. We have to start looking at the past again to start thinking of the future, and then think in a third dimension altogether for a better future for the generations to come, in fact. Over to Mr. Singh. How do you think delivery partners can work hand in hand with restaurants? As we know, delivery is the new trend. And how can these partners help restaurants create a more wholesome or sustainable food system?
Did you say partners or did you say aggregators?
Whichever one you would like to go with.
Okay. No, so, you have to have a sustainable business. It needs to start with without distortion of pricing or over discounting or deep discounting. One realization that's happened during the, post, let's say, after reopening from the COVID, is that people are ready to pay for delivery. They're ready to pay for quality. The average ticket price has only gone up. And like Jaspali said, it's the international chains, the QSRs, the trusted brand. The word is trust. So anybody who's trusted, people are ordering. People are paying for delivery. So there was nothing called, I want free delivery, or I wanted a deep discount. There's no deep discounts now. So I think the fight was between the aggregators. It was not fight for the restaurants, it was fight amongst them. And that fight amongst them created this false, that, India is a cheap country and everybody wants a discount. No, you don't need a discount. If you've got good quality, you'll pay for it. It's as simple as that. If you're going to do delivery, it's a convenience. You're going to pay for delivery. And that's what's happened. So that's the new norm, like we say. And I think that's very good for us. Now the aggregators have to come and create further value. And I think the further value, for example, one of the aggregators, Zomato, has created a backend further value by getting into something called, which they call sustainability, is a model called Hyperpure. That's a B2B model. So which means you can buy from one place under one online, channel. And as a company, you'll get everything delivered by them at one time in the day. And I think that's very good for a small restaurant, because a small restaurant does not have the capability of getting into, having a purchase department or finding out what it is. Now you go online, and across the world, it happens for restaurants. You have these B2B suppliers. So one of the aggregators done it, and I think more will come through. But that's what's happening. Delivery is the norm. And a lot of brands which have actually become delivery only, which we call the cloud business. Now, I just request people is, when you say cloud, it means dark, but don't make it dark and dirty, because the consumer is not seeing it, and there's no food safety regulator as much as what you will see in other countries. My request to everybody is, do business, but do it safely. At the end of the day, you're talking about food here. Protect that, and that's what it is. But the aggregator is not playing that role. They will just go and open up any door. They will just do whatever it takes, because they're there to have a commercial angle out there. But I think they need to also come into it, and they should be attending let's say webinars like this, and coming out of it to understand what the ground realities are. Don't just sit for valuations. Create value.
Absolutely. On that note, we will wrap up. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, Mr. Sabharwal, for joining us today. It was a great conversation, and we are open for questions if anyone has any. I can pass it on to Chef Soundararajan.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Rahul Baji.
Thank you, Chef Radhika. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Singh, and thank you, Mr. Sabharwal, to give a very good insight into what is the status of the industry, the professionals, the home bakers, home chefs. I think it's a very good insight into the entire scenario of these facets during post-COVID.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So we will move on to the next program, that is a presentation by Mr. Bimal Arokiraj of Agimsa Organic Agri-Tech Producer Private Limited and Ramesh Babu. Bimal Arokiraj is basically an aeronautical engineer turned into a farmer. What an interesting thing. So he worked with a lot of organizations on renewable energy and power audit, and he is on his toes in his farms. Probably he has put together more than 12,000 farmers and 60,000 acres of land in a cooperative environment to provide nitrogen gas-free products. I think he goes away from calling it organic because he makes sure that it is nitrogen gas-free, fertilizer-free, and chemical-free. Over to Mr. Bimal Arokiraj. Mr. Bimal Arokiraj, thank you.
Thank you, Chef. Good evening, chefs and friends.
Can you see us?
I hope, am I audible and can you see the screen?
Yes, you are audible and we can see.
Okay. Screen share. Just a minute. Just a minute, sorry. How do you put it in play? Can you see the screen, sir?
No.
Please
Hello?
share the screen. Do a screen share.
Share screen.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? I was watching for the last.
Mr. Vimal Arugiraj, you'll have to put off one of the mics on the either of the computer. You'll have to turn off one of them. Thank you.
No, sir, you're gone on mute, sir.
So just a minute. That suddenly the screen sharing, it's getting a little. They're just working on it. I'll open it now. First of all, Happy New Year, chefs and friends. So this is the first time I'm on a platform that is not it's a farming field, and thanks for this opportunity. First, we started. I would like to share our experience and how we started this in a small way, and now we are in the 4th year, and we have established almost it's a farmer producer company. We started this company in 2016 with just 10 farmers and 23 acres. And now it is almost 2021, and now we are around 8,000 farmers and 60,000 acres in contract farming. So basically, first we wanted to have a good vegetable, that is nitrate-free vegetables and pest residue-free vegetables. That is how we started it. We started growing in an organic way. Then we faced a lot of problems. We faced a lot of this thing. We couldn't make it commercially viable. So very little portion we were able to make it, and we faced a lot of losses in the farming. Then we thought we need some technology to improve the production. So we merged the technology. Since myself and our team, we all are engineers. We fused, we married technology with the conventional inputs, not the conventional inputs, with the organic inputs. So we were able to, first year it was a loss, and then the second year, we almost got the production equivalent to the conventional farming. All the vegetables that we were able to grow, even in the plains, Sorry, some this thing has happened, so I couldn't play the presentation. I don't know how to
Can we share the document?
Can we share the document? Can you play it, sir? Hello.
Hello, put it in a WhatsApp group. Share the document in the WhatsApp group. We'll play for you.
Okay. Can we share the document to you, sir, now?
Yeah, share it in the group.
Yeah. Share it in the group. Okay.
Just a second, one second.
Just give me a second.
Are we okay?
Bimal, are you on the line?
I think he's having some technical difficulty. He can't share the.
Can you?
But I think rather Bimal can talk at least about his farming. And,
yes.
Bimal, can you come on the video? Can you talk?
Yes, sir. Yes. I was just trying to somehow share because we made us exclusive video and the presentation. And I don't know.
Maybe you share it tomorrow. We'll try to play it tomorrow in one of our ending sessions.
Sure. Here, since it is
because we're losing time. Yeah.
Sure. Sorry.
Yeah.
So actually, the thing is, so as in sustainable this thing, we formulated. Sir, just now we have shared that presentation in the group, sir. I hope you can see that. So.
Can someone play on that?
We will play it for you. So just hold. Keep talking, and we'll get it for you.
Okay. Sorry for that inconvenience caused.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Not a problem.
From 2 o'clock, I was watching. I was going through this thing. Everything was correct, and suddenly some mistake happened. So this is how, sir. We are following. We merged that organic. We used to make our own. Yeah. Now it's sharing. Can everybody see this?
Yes, we can see, sir.
Okay.
Next.
So
just tell us when you want us to change the slide, and Barbara will change.
Yes, I will tell you to change the slide. Okay, next slide. So this is what we do. We, as a collective representation, we do the transformation. So first, to sustain this, we formulated sustain the vegetable production and the fruits production. We formulated all the procedures, and we standardized all the procedures. And then we started duplicating the concept to all the other farms. So in our producer company, it's Ahimsa Organic Agri-Tech. We give the farmer support. We follow the supply chain practices. We have a USP in our producers, and we have complete fully automatic infrastructures across all the districts in Tamil Nadu. Next slide. Yes. So first, when we started with the organic production with the USDA certification and process, and we started everything. Then we found out it is not so easy to go on 100% organic. So we started practicing GAP, that is good agricultural practices. So with this practice, we were able to comply with all the standards that is required for the that has been set by the European and American standards. That all the residue level and the nitrogen level, nitrate level, everything is in the allowable limit. Second slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes. So in order to avoid after the green revolution in India, all the lands got, everybody know that all the land has been polluted. The soil and the land and everything has been polluted. We thought we could change everything just within just by mixing all the natural manures just like that, and immediately we can change it in 6 months time, 1 month's time, 1 year's time. But that is not possible. So with this good agricultural practice, we were able to convert our land. It took 2.5 years for us to remove all this thing, but this cannot remove the nitrate, excess nitrate available that is in the soil. So what we did is since we started practicing, we thought this cannot be duplicated everywhere. So where the gap concept came in. So here the nitrate, now you very well know that nitrate is the biggest cause. It's believed to be the cause serious illness and gastric cancer. It is the main cause for gastric cancer. So we started maintaining this nitrate level. It's been instead of putting the urea, we replaced it with Panchakavya. Panchakavya is our traditional Vedic method of preparation of nutrients, and which fixes nitrogen to the ground. So this is how we replaced the conventional conventional input to a natural Vedic way of organic, and we converted into organic inputs. So based on fertilizer, next slide, please. So when we standardized all the crop production and everything, so we started supporting the farmers with the first support starts with the lab, where we analyze their soil and water, and we started making a schedule according to what kind of inputs can be used, what kind of seeds can be used, what type of crops can be grown in that soil. And based on that, we ourselves, we started buying, all irrigation. We started supplying all the irrigation facility, technology, equipments, drip equipments, pesticides, fertilizers, all organic fertilizers, and micronutrients, everything. We plan everything, and we also support the farmers with nursery, and we also make a buyback concept. Next slide. So if you happen to see this this slide, so when we were able to standardize the produce, we were able to give them a standard fixed price that is almost like 100% of the 100% with the 100% margin. The farmers were very happy working with us. And then as a secondary process, after getting from the farmland, the producers were sent to the second processing, that is ozonation process, where we have machineries and everything. Actually, there's a video that I couldn't send now. Sorry for this thing, where we ozonize all the vegetables. Even the slightest residue, if it is present on the vegetables or fruits, is being oxidized, and the produce is almost 90 to 92%. It's almost not organic, but it is safe to consume. So this is how we ensure that the product is safe and safety. It is safe to consume. And we also provide traceability to all the crops. So now after this COVID-19 pandemic, it is here all the corporates and all the traceability of the produce is very important, and the government is also has made it a mandate that we should have traceability for all the vegetables and fruits that has been brought to the market. So this type of this thing that we have with the farmers, the contract, so we are able to keep the traceability, and all the even the crates that brings the vegetables from the farm has a barcode and other technical. We use all the other technical equipments to record the traceability of the produce. Next. So our USP of the is, see, all the producers are already, it has been grown under GAP norms. Now, after receiving from, all the vegetables are ozone washed and segregated, and it's been hello.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, we can hear you, no problems. You're fine.
Okay. So we remove the pesticides and the surface germs and all the surface pesticides, we remove it. And the vegetables are almost nitrous, pesticide residue free. And we also have 10% of the vegetables that we handle are almost certified organic. And the remaining 90%, we are trying to convert all the other farmers also who are all following the GAP certification. Is being slowly we are converting them to 100% organic. Next. Next slide. So these are the list of vegetables and fruits and other items that we are handling with our own processing and also with our associate partner farmer producer companies. Next slide. Yeah, this is the Tamil Nadu state map where some 10 districts we have our infrastructures of collection centers. If you happen the PPC, that is the procurement process centers, that is called, we call it PPCs, and the infrastructures we have. So what we do is we have vegetable collection centers, and also we have cold storages across the state, more than 1,500 tons of cold storage. I mean 500 tons, 100 tons, 50 tons, like that. It has been dispersed in the different districts of Tamil Nadu. Wherever we have our procurement centers, we have cold storages in order to serve in order to keep the supply chain in a correct manner, that everywhere we get all the producers in a even at the same price. So we are trying to maintain that. We try to maintain the price and also the produce quality and the business. So, and we during the time of next slide. Yeah, when there is excess production of fruits and vegetables, we also have an IQF facility. During those times, we froze them, individual quick freezing. We freeze the vegetables and we keep it. During the excess, when there is very, very low price of vegetables and fruits, we procure from our farmers. When they don't get the better price for their produce, we procure them. We do IQF, and we also have 500 metric ton capacity where we store it and we supply to all the places. This concept, so this was a very successful work during the COVID time, the COVID lockdown. We played a major role in in Chennai, Coimbatore, and Krishnagiri and Dharmaburi districts in Tamil Nadu, where we were able to supply vegetables to 2,000 houses every day, just with volunteers. All the vegetables have been collected from the farm. We were at that time we seek some help from the government, and the government also helped us by issuing special passes. So because of with that help, and we were able to supply vegetables everywhere, most of without any trouble. So that is one really very good thing happened, that we were able to support the people. Whoever in need, they called us, and we were able to give them food at that time, support them with vegetables and other groceries. So next slide. So since in the previous thing I told about, we married the organic inputs with the technology, not using this thing. So in this snap, in the middle photo, if you can see the 3 tanks where we fill the organic inputs, and it's all fully computer controlled, where it is I mean in a water soluble manner, all the inputs has been delivered to this thing to the land. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this, if you can see, all these items are grown, this carrot and cauliflower, beetroot, all these vegetables can be grown only in the hill stations or where there is cold climate. But we were able to grow all these produces in the plains near the Chennai city, where it is hot all the time, even in winter. So this is the quality of the produce was also very nice, 100% organic. So we found out that when we give organic inputs at a very prescribed dosage through technology, through drip irrigation, we can get yield anywhere. Not only it is. We don't have to depend on hill stations for carrot or cauliflower or any other this type of fill rows. So we were successful in growing these type of crops also. Next. Next, please. So this is one unit we set up after when we saw there was a lot of during the when there is too much of production, some fruits and vegetables that cannot be IQF, we can do dehydration. So we did dehydrated vegetables, and this, when with proper packing, this can be kept for 12 years. And in some places where we couldn't ship the fresh vegetables and fruits, we were supplying dehydrated vegetables to all the places. When we put it back, so as chef, you all know about the this thing, when you put back in the instant foods and so to make instant food, and when making the common normal conventional our sambar or any other food, you just put back in the water, it comes back to the original shape. And so we were able to supply this to all the places where we couldn't take fresh vegetables. So this was also one very successful concept. We were able to do it. Next slide. So now most of the students from engineering colleges and agriculture colleges, they come, they see our model farm and they take training. And whoever the young entrepreneurs who are all willing to become farmers, we give them training. Free training is happening here. We teach them. So this is what we are doing here. So that's all. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you very much, Bimal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the, I'm sure if you would have taken us through the forms, it would have been great, but still, maybe you can try tomorrow if you can, for 2 minutes, you can take us through the form.
Definitely, we will show you the farm tomorrow. I didn't expect unexpected damage happen.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. Now, let us move on to the next presentation. This is about the student's role in sustainable food, or the student's role, the young chef's role. It's very important of the young chefs to get involved in this entire SDG 2. It's very important. Before going into this, I like to remind all of you, tomorrow we have lined up some great national and international speakers. Please do not forget to log in tomorrow. Also, please share the link to your friends, colleagues, and other professionals so that they can also benefit. So the next speaker is Chef Rajiv Gulshan. He is a Dean Academics of Indian Hospitality, and he has worked for more than 3 decades in hospitality and culinary education, and he is also decorated with the Commandery, the Cordon Bleu title, and also the recipient of the Oberoi Outstanding Performance Award. And he has also worked or set up a restaurant, which is one of the best 3 restaurants in the Times Magazine. And I'm sure he will give us good insight into how students can participate in the sustainable food arena. Over to Chef Rajiv Gulshan.
Thank you, Chef Soundararajan. Really appreciate it. I'd love to share my screen if possible. Thank you very much.
Please, you can share. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm talking about students' role in sustainability, and I would like to basically start with acknowledging the speakers who were here with us this morning, and fantastic presentation. It was great to hear the views from various chefs, restaurant owners. Had a wonderful opportunity to look at some of the yummy things being prepared by Chef Gayatri, and I think it has been a great event so far. I want to talk about basically start with in today's presentation, I would cover how we look at the pedagogy and how we should look at what needs to be taught to students in curriculum and how students need to get involved with such an important thing as sustainability and celebrating the diversity of what's available in Indian plethora. I would speak about the pearls of the sea, and then again, I want to highlight about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is another concept which I think is very interesting and very relevant in today's day and age. And I want to speak briefly about how we need to preserve the forgotten and understanding the importance of where the food comes from, and also the provenance of food using some of the knowledge which we heard earlier from some people and farmers as to learn from them about indigenous techniques on sustainability. I think it is important we talk a lot about cooking with what's in the season and celebrating the diversity, especially in India. Indian culinary science historically has always emphasized on local seasonal food. And as you see this blossoming mustard fields, which characterize Indian winters across the north. And you're immediately reminded of the nourishing dishes which are prepared from this current crops. In this semester, for example, some of the students have gone to a farmhouse in Manesar and cooked and relished fermented kanji made with purple carrots and mustard seeds, makki ki roti, sarson ka saag. And the shalgam ka achar, which Chef Gayatri showed us earlier, was another example of what you can do with the local, and to allow the seasons to tell you what to eat, and to allow the earth to listen to the earth, put your ear to the earth. Now, India has a rich historical tradition of conscious eating, which recognizes that food goes far beyond being just a meal. It forms the basis of our not only individual, social, but ecological well-being simultaneously. It thus becomes important that we teach, eat, and grow, respect the diversity which is around us. As mentioned earlier by Sardar Harpal Singh also about the rich diversity, an ancient system of Ayurveda itself recommends that we must consume 6 tastes in each meal. In fact, the Bible written by Albert Howard, a botanist who visited India in 1905 to teach Indian farmers about sustainable practices, was even amazed and wrote back saying that, in fact, there's more to learn from Indian farmers and learn about what needs to be grown in the earth, in the soil, to ensure that the soil remains fertile and is not tired. Soil is not tired by using growing things which are not suitable for that particular space or place. I think that knowledge is very important for us as students of culinary to keep in mind when designing our menus and also looking at what needs to be cooked on daily basis. It is good to follow French culinary techniques, but what's perhaps relevant in French cooking needs to be adapted to Indian culinary curriculum, because that is what the culinary curriculum should come from, what's available to us locally in our flora and fauna. I would also like to talk a bit about, and I'm here quoting Mahatma Gandhi, who said the world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. And this, I'm highlighting the fact about fishing. Now, some of the students' project which we have done in this semester talk about how to avoid juvenile fishing through use of large mesh and educating them to go beyond standard catch of pomfret and ravas and surmai, but also to look at other fish and try to use them in our menus on seasonal basis. The idea is to highlight to the world what is available and how best we can use it. Now, we know that ethical farming, people talk about it, is maybe a way forward. But the challenges which are due to regulatory failures and drastic weather conditions are keeping fishermen away from sea for longer. Now, many of these concerns for fish farming, because of this popularity of these fishes, arise from crowding together of thousands of fish in their artificial environment. Waste products, including feces, uneaten food, dead fish, are flushed often in the environment untreated, and where they add to the contamination of water supply. Now, this is obviously due to overproduction of the fish famous with the consumers. So we as chefs, or we as culinary students, have to highlight the lesser known varieties of fish, such as Indian mackerel, cobia, barracuda. And through qualitative research which has been conducted, we realized that while urban markets are still asking for select species of fish, pomfret, ravas, Bombay duck, consuming a diverse range of seafood, which changes with the season or changes with what's available in the marine life, in fact, makes a difference to the marine conservation. In the menus which we made for the students for first semester, we have taken this particular chart into consideration, understood when the mating season is, when they're laying eggs, and allowed students to experiment with different fish and come up with some sauces, and depending on the oiliness and the texture of the fish. And that has been taken very well by the students. They've added to the repertoire and also added to the sustainable practices which students are learning with. At this stage, I would also like to introduce the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which is difficult to translate, but one of the ways to look at this is that world is a family. And understanding and respecting the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam becomes critical when we commence our sessions of culinary within the student network. We use the opportunity provided by the students due to COVID to reflect on the indigenous dietary cultures, emphasizing on the seasonal foods, diets rich in vegetable, fruits, whole grain, and legumes. And we also have initiated a foraging activity to bring food diversity out from the wild onto our plates and to empower the farmers to grow biodiverse food. It is obviously important to look at food from the perspective of livelihood for the farmers, having it in moderation, but most importantly, also look at the benefits to the environment when choosing what kind of grains or what kind of vegetables are right for that particular season. Indigenous food systems, whether in West or in India, are based on mix of dietary science, locally grown crops, philosophy. Ancient texts believe food formed a basic form of cosmic moral cycle. The four Vedas describe diverse grain. The Rig Veda discusses barley, while others highlight the partake of lentils and millets. The everyday khichdi made of rice and lentil is actually mentioned in these scriptures. Unfortunately, when we feel sick, we go back to our roots. We have khichdi, but very few times you would see it in a restaurant menu, although it has all the health benefits. In 2001, when we opened Veda in Hong Kong, masala khichdi made of millets and green moong, served with raw mango and grilled chili, became a hit. While glamorizing it with grilled banana chili filled with homemade mango pickle made it a gourmet experience. People loved that aspect of it. It was a khichdi, but it was glamorized. And examples such as this also show that sociological impact of Michelin star chefs and the students bringing that knowledge can have an influence on guest preference when dining out. The science of food, when interwoven into the art of diet, is something we grew up as Indians. And a student of fifth semester looked at their research projects on marketing of food and sensory evaluation, found that clients' preference was determined by the packaging more than the ingredients inside. Food has become not restrictive from eating to live, but aspirational to a large extent. What we can do as students is to challenge the transportation due to power of markets, food companies, and food commodification. We can, in fact, raise a voice, and I expect students to kind of look at that. I think it's important. And also spread the word that I care to make a betterment and for society. Take care of all the beings. That is the concept which we were already speaking about. All plants, animals, and people exist on Earth, bearing their own rights, their own logic, their own special place. We as culinarians must recognize that for this and respect the fact that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, in fact, is a great philosophy that means to respect the rights and integrity of all beings on the earth. Indian agriculture system always knew how to respect this truth. Without politics, without the government, without looking at the benefits of the commercialization, we all should follow this truth for long-term sustainability of our planet. Another thing which I want to bring to your consideration is to preserve the forgotten. What we have done in past 1 or 2 semesters is with students is to define food in ancient civilization, which followed a definitive pattern of climatic adaptive system. Depending on what climate, that was the crop. That was what people were eating. Eating seasonal from your own backyards and not only ensures great taste, nourishment, but it also obviously reduces the carbon footprint. We realized that by nudging the students towards foraging for greens, edible flowers, and seeds, inspires people to go beyond spinach or fenugreek, but also start valuing traditional greens such as bathua, which is Chemopodium, and khatti booty, which is wood sorrel. To expose the students would also mean that it is exposing the guest in the future. And what students have been able to do with some of these ingredients and bring them on a plate shows that climatic adaptive food can become a mainstream and make these things fashionable for people to ask for. I would also like to speak briefly about provenance of food and using indigenous farmers to teach us sustainability. I'm sorry, this is not a very visible slide, but I just wanted to highlight the work which has been done by indigenous elders along with CSIRO in Australia to develop a complex seasonal calendar that incorporates detailed knowledge of position of stars, constellation, and corresponding terrestrial activities, along with changing weather patterns, animal behavior, and the availability of plants and medicine. This one, in fact, this talks about TV seasons. TV is an area, it's an island on Northern Territories. And they have defined, in fact, in month of October, what the climate is like, what you should be eating for your betterment. It talks about, they are so smart in how they have analyzed with the knowledge from the elders, from people or the traditional owners of the land, wherein they have looked at the blooming of flowers during autumn, and they are able to tell which fish would have entered the Port Phillip Bay. So looking at a flower somewhere else, and they know which fish is entering the bay, which is close to 600 miles from there, which I think is a tremendous knowledge, which is available to all of us. Apart from this, I would like to also talk about a culinary. Until a couple of years ago, Indian farmers had no role to play in the larger scheme of things. Initiatives that we heard from Sardar Harpal Singh, provenance is now becoming key. As consumers want to understand how their food is procured. Taking coffee as example, selecting the bush, picking the cherries, the Adivasis of Araku village in Andhra Pradesh have contributed to this new coffee culture in the process. The coffee farmers in 2018 won the popular award Pre-Epicure with the coffee, and it is now considered to be one of the top grade coffees in the world. Again, the knowledge which is available to us from these Adivasis and traditional owners of land should be utilized by the students and all of us. More than 90% of the farmers who have been working on this particular project have risen from the poverty. So what it does is also allows for betterment of the society in the long run. In this bean to cup story that is winning points from coffee expert, there is also a great concept which has come up, which is called Araka, which is now opening up another store in Bangalore. And what it shows that if we are able to look at these heirloom seeds, we are able to understand, make the students understand the importance of it. The students can take charge of it and understand how not only rice and grains are important, but also look at the varieties of rice such as basmati and kolam, but look at what else is available in the rice and to promote those rice which don't require that much water consumption can in fact create a lot of awareness and would allow the farmers to restore forest land to try and mitigate climate change to a large extent. That's my presentation, and if there are any questions I would like to answer, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Chef Rajiv, Gulshan, for your insight on the students' involvement in sustainable food. I think thank you very much for all the, I'm sure your institute has got more than 500 students and they will all participate in this sustainable food movement. Over to Mr. Paul Newnham, who is the Director, SDG2 Advocacy Hub. Over to Mr. Paul.
Hi, Chef. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, it's very great to be here, and thank you to all the speakers. It's been a real learning experience, and I think this is what the Chefs Manifesto is all about. It's really about listening to each other, and it was great to also see right down to the field. It was great to visit with farmers to hear of their experience, to also hear from chefs about from large scale to small. There's just so many insights that I've gathered from today, and it's just been super helpful to have this conversation and to be able to hear from everyone. And I think we've set ourselves up very well for tomorrow. So I'd encourage people to come back tomorrow, tell your friends about it. We still have space for other chefs. We will also share this on our Facebook Live, and so the video will be available, and so people can share that. But I want to encourage you, don't end here. Please sign up to the Chefs Manifesto, join us as part of the network, as part of the community, and we can continue to grow these conversations. We can continue to learn from one another, to have insights about how our food is produced, how it can be good for people and planet, and how we can work together for good food for all. So I thank you. I thank you for your support and for all of our speakers and esteemed panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, speakers. Thank you, delegate. Thank you, Mr. Paul, and thank you, everybody. And please don't forget to log in tomorrow at the same time, 2 o'clock IST, and don't forget to sign your Chefs Manifesto. Thank you, Namaskar. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.